All right, we'll get started. Call to order the June 19, 2018 City Council meeting. The clerk will call the roll and record those in attendance. Hear your name. State it.
Anderson-Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan. Leahy.
I'm present.
LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. Here. McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Roman.
Here.
Sullivan. Here. Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sorry.
Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
in the city of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
And the Holyoke Fire Department.
All right, before we get started, we do have proclamations to give out that were approved, I do believe, at the last meeting unanimously. So with that, Councilor Roman will invite in our guests.
Right. Right. Is the air on?
With that, we have two proclamations. Please step up this way. I will turn over to the maker of the order, Councilor Roman.
Thank you all so much, and thank you to my colleagues. We're here this evening, and as we reported at last City Council meeting, Morgan Elementary School and our students in South Holyoke and throughout the whole city of Holyoke are very important to us here in the council and to the city. But there was a recent event that happened that shook our neighborhood to the core. And within this past year, we've seen two young gentlemen get shot and killed in the neighborhood. About a couple months ago, this students and staff going into the building during the daytime found a bullet had lodged into one of the windows in the classroom. And a couple weeks ago, as I reported to this body, there was a shooting out in the street during the daytime when students were being dismissed. And there was two specific individuals during that event and incident that we would consider and call, and I do call them heroes. One of them is Josue Cardon, who's here with us today, who has committed extremely brave acts, bringing the students in, making sure they were safe and secure. And one of them is a security guard who, just for his own safety and purposes, did not want to be named. And so that's why we have Principal Allison Lynch and Katie here, who's the vice principal. The whole staff and team of Morgan really went above and beyond, and their staff and teachers are here this evening, and parents and students. It was a community effort, and I really want to applaud Allison and Katie for their steadfast leadership in that school. But specifically this individual, Josue, thank you so much for your heroic act. So I'm going to read the proclamations as they're written and then allow both groups to come up, because I think this is a point where we really show how heroes and everyday heroes can be from any walk of life: a crossing guard, a teacher, a firefighter, a policeman, or even your neighborhood group. And I want to really thank Morgan School for being that exemplary school, not only in the district for the most gains made, but for moments like this where they really step up as a community and make our kids feel safe. So be it resolved that the City of Holyoke extends its congratulations to Josue Cardona and to the Holyoke Crossing Guard staff at Morgan for their brave and heroic acts protecting staff and students during a recent shooting incident near Morgan Elementary School. And be it further resolved that the Holyoke City Council extends its best wishes for continued success, that this resolution be duly signed by the President of the City Council, Todd McGee, and attested there and copy of by the Clerk of the City of Holyoke, who's Brenna McGee Murphy, on today's date, June 19th, 2018. With that, I'll welcome Josue Cardon to say a few words and accept this proclamation. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so grateful, so excited. But first of all, it wasn't just me. That's the main important thing. It was a team effort. It was the Cross Guard. It was the teachers at Holyoke Morgan School. It was the staff. It was the management of the school. So we're living in very hard times. And we're trying to teach, we're trying to give our kids a safe environment. We're trying to give our kids a place where they can feel safe, a place from there they can learn, a place where they can dream, and they can have really high expectations. And if something like that happened, I won't thinking twice, I will do it again and again and again, because they are our future. So in behalf of the Morgan School, on behalf of the Cross Guard, on behalf of all the staff and from the people of Holyoke, I'm humbled, appreciated, and accept this recognition. And I will say thank you for this, and for the whole community of Holyoke and the Morgan School, I thank you and appreciate it real much. So.
Now, I'm going to welcome the school principal, another all-star. Keep your applause going for Miss Allison Lynch, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to accept this proclamation on behalf of our crossing guard. He does a tremendous job every single day keeping our kids safe, making sure that they are learning just how to cross the street and look both ways, and having a positive relationship with them. And this day he went above and beyond what was necessary, keeping us all safe, the first one to notify us that there was a problem in the neighborhood. And like Mr. Cardona said, it is a team effort. Luckily, we have an amazing staff. Many of them are here in the audience, and amazing students that knew exactly what to do to keep themselves safe in that situation. So I appreciate this, Nelson, and I thank everyone for the safety of Morgan School.
Congratulations, good job, well done. Good job.
Thank you again. With that, we'll move on to items that were laid onto the table. Item 1, as we know, will be taken up tomorrow and Thursday, and then the following week we'll be acting on a vote. So with that one, we can move on to item number 2.
Make a motion to remove from the table.
Motion is to remove from the table. It was seconded. Item 2, which is a financial request for $79,000 from stabilization for software, systems, hardware. Motion is removed from the table. All is in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Under
Motion to
discussion.
pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading.
Second.
It was seconded. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick recap. The Finance Committee worked on this over the past month and a half, and at our last full City Council meeting, we took a vote both on a similar transfer, but from free cash, which did not have the votes and was denied, and on this particular transfer from stabilization, which had the votes, a vote of 7-5 to 1. As you know, municipal law says that it's a simple majority to pass a transfer within the Commonwealth. However, with stabilization, it is a 2/3 majority. The committee, we asked that this would be tabled to this evening, and just real quickly, the purpose of this transfer, although it says software license and hardware license, is the IT account, which is a catch-all account for a number of things within the city of Holyoke. Gas and Electric runs the IT programs for us, as we know, but it's also for hardware and equipment. And the determination was made by Room 1 last year when the phone system crashed here in City Hall in the annex to use this account as emergency money to replace the phone system. So what happens is this is the end of the year. The $79,000 is a shortage in that account for software and license monies that are due for both the license and for the hardware system. We were asking that there be some reconsideration for this, and that it would pass to pay a bill that is due.
Todd. Brian. Brian. There's no audio at home.
Here's the audio is not working. The system here is on, the microphones are on for recording, but it appears at home they're not getting it. So just putting that out there. So these are on for recording purposes. That's why I walked in back. I wasn't trying to be rude to Councilor McGivern. I just wanted to make sure for recording purposes it was active, and it is. So with that, any further discussion? I will point out to councilors, I did file an order, item number 33, that the communication people who did put this system in come in to address that we're having actual user issues, constituents calling in. If they're on Verizon, it's not allowing them to call into the city for whatever system, whatever reason. So we'll have them come in to address that, seeing how they put the system in. Anyone else? No further discussion. Motion is to pass the second reading. It is for stabilization, $79,000 for software license, software hardware, and it will require a 2/3 vote. Clerk will call the roll. This time I pulled from.
I think that's, I believe it's a second reading.
Yeah, but stabilization.
Yeah, the stabilization does require a 2/3 vote on, regardless of the charter, and Mass General Law requires a 2/3 vote.
Of which, when I pulled the name, just as we always announce, it first to start is Councilor Roman. Clerk will call the roll.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Bresnahan? Leahy?
No.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Nope.
McGivern?
Yes.
Four yeas, 8 nays.
With your vote, the request has been denied. Also, Councilor Bresnahan did call in. He'll be running a little late. He's just caught up at work, just as an announcement there. Next is item number 3, which is another item that was tabled from Finance. Tree climber, $20,000 to contracted services.
Make a motion to remove from the table.
Motion is
Second.
to remove from table, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Make a motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to
Second.
pass the second reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request for transfer within the budget of the DPW Forestry Services itself. The position of tree climber, as reported 2 weeks ago, was not filled for for the latter part of the year. I believe it's not filled yet. And the contract services would be to contract out to try to put a nip into the that long list of tree removals that many of us have filed over the past couple of years that is slowly being worked on by understaffed, under-budgeted part of the forestry department itself. The $20,000 is not going to solve all the problems of our trees, but the $20,000 would go a long way. We recommend that you do pass this. This would require a simple majority this evening to pass, and it would allow, I think, a good, swift move by a department head to work within his budget at the end of the year to get some services done that are very much needed.
Anyone else? Just as a reminder, the Mike McManus did send us that list of trees. So he did put it into the system, of which I do believe there are 65 to 68 trees throughout the city that need attention. And this was one of my points with regards to this account. If we're going to take just a little bit out, might as well take it all out before the end of the year to try and address all those trees, or as much as possible. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I thought the number was 42,500, not 20,000.
I think that was the first transfer. This is like the second transfer under this account.
Okay.
Anyone else? With that, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer within their line items.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. Item number 4 is also laid on the table. Committee on Finance has referred an order of $75,000 from free cash to special counsel.
Make a motion to remove from the table?
Motion is removed from the table. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Make a motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. Was seconded. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. A rehash real quick, then I'd like to go over the free cash situation and the impact on some other votes this evening. This is one of 3 remaining free cash transfers that are before the City Council. 2 are on this agenda, 1 remains in the committee. This particular one was tabled 2 weeks ago after we talked about an item that has been before the City Council for the past 5.5 months, with briefings from the Law Department on why the special counsel was used, on all the litigation pending before the city, on the pros and cons of settling, on the pros and cons of fighting the litigation. This $75,000 request, I believe, Mr. President, came in some time ago, but it is before us for the purpose of paying bills that we have been briefed on. The issue with free cash is becoming much clearer. 2 weeks ago, what we were looking at was free cash, which was $236,639.31. We've passed 1 free cash transfer since free cash was certified. That was back on May 15th, $10,000 for in the fire department for R&M motor vehicles, repair and maintenance. That total amount of request to free cash that came in as of 2 weeks ago was, with one exception, was $346,052.84. 2 weeks ago, we denied a free cash transfer of $79,000, which was for the IT account for the paying of the telephone system. So when you add the $79,000 back into the available balance, this is taking into consideration 3 orders that are still before us. The total was $188,413.53, $188,413.53. If we vote on 2 of the 3 items, regardless of which 2, we could not vote on the 3rd one, because under any scenario there would not be enough money left over for the 3rd one. The 3rd one in committee is the $50,000 transfer from free cash to pay for the Mata Della Rosa proposal, which is before the DGR committee, and which has been continued to, I believe, June 25th. There's a sister transfer in the Finance Committee of the same $50,000, but from stabilization, giving us a choice there. So this evening, we can vote on either one of the 2 items that are before us. The first item is the one that's before us, that's been before us on the table, the $75,000. If we deny this, these bills will not be paid in a timely fashion, and the city will be responsible for them in some form or fashion. The second one this evening, which will be coming up, if we wish, going out of order, is the money to pay for the firefighters contract, which totals $142,052.84.
Can we do these separately?
What was that?
Can we do these separately?
We have to do them separately.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay. All right. So
the reason we're doing it in this order is so that we know where we are, and we're taking, in the scenario of free cash, we're taking votes in a timely fashion to be able to know the options that we have open. Back to the one vote that's in front of us. Again, it's for bills that need to be paid. The money's coming from free cash. We have been up to date on these litigation and bills for several months now, and two separate executive sessions when the Law Department came before us.
Councilor Leahy.
Thank you, Councilor McGee. I'm going to be voting no against item number 4, and I'll tell you why. I believe myself, you, Councilor McGee, I think Councilor Bartley in the past, and goes way back to Councilor Kane and probably O'Neill as well. The reason I'm voting against this is I'm going to file an order that we have an outside party looking at the billable hours that are going into the Law Department. I have a bunch of different questions in regards to the billing. I have a bunch of different questions on how much we're paying, and I'd like a third party to say, hey, we're doing a great job, we're doing a poor job, or we're doing a fine job. Until then, I'm going to be voting against this, and I encourage everybody else to as well. I don't think it's going to hurt anything if we wait. The new fiscal year begins in a couple weeks, And voting against this tonight will free up the free cash, and we can help support, the firefighters in different orders that we need to. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Bartley.
Just a point of order, Todd. You mentioned at the Finance Committee meeting on June 11th relative to Mass State law.
Yep.
Did you have a chance to find that law? Or?
I say no? Yeah, of course I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Would you be able to expand upon that, Todd?
Yeah, so
thank you.
For clarification, for those who weren't able to see finance or be at the meeting, at the time, there were three things that were outstanding, which was you had the $75,000 for legal fees, which is currently before you. There was confusion or discussion on whether or not the $79,000 of free cash for the communication system was approved or not approved. We were under the assumption that the $79,000 of free cash was tabled, not the stabilization. That was clarified. Then you had the $50,000 sitting in committee for the MD project. Added all those up, plus the firefighters' contract or appropriation for it would exceed the amount for free cash, which then is, having been part of finance for several years, an issue came up like this before. At the time, Brian Smith said, you cannot appropriate more than what is in free cash. You cannot do that. Of which, now we're hearing from other department heads that, oh, of course you can. No, you can't. Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 23. It refers to assessors, but it also refers to commissioners of directors of accounts, which would be your auditor. In summation, it says the amount of all appropriations voted for available funds for the purpose of deduction and the amount of all appropriations voted on for available funds, so on and so forth. Provide further that deductions made under clauses B and C, which is what I just referenced, shall not exceed the sums of certified by the assessor or the commissioner of director of accounts, which is your auditor. So you cannot appropriate more than what is there. 59:23.
Right.
We've always followed that rule. Now, if we want to go past that and do different types of accounting, you can. I won't follow that. I follow Mass General Law. Therefore, at the time, you had more appropriations than what was in free cash. We've now, thanks to Ryan and the clerk, they said, no, the correction is the $79,000 from free cash is now gone. It's on the stabilization, which now that's gone. We just voted on that. So if you approve the $75,000, you can now take up the fireman's contract or firefighter's contract, to be clear, because you'd be within those numbers. Does that clarify for everybody? Okay. Anyone else?
Just
Councilor McGivern.
Rebuttal to Councilor Leahy. These are bills that are owed, and these are bills that we've been apprised of. I respect what Jimmy is proposing for next year, but these are bills that should be paid this year for work that was performed for the city and work that I think we have no question was needed. At least there was no serious questions when we met with the law department.
Anyone else? Any more comment? The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the free cash transfer of $75,000 for special counsel fees.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Leahy?
No.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
No.
McGivern?
Yes.
8 yeas, 4 nays.
For your vote, you approve the transfer. Now we're at public comment.
Sure that doesn't take 10 votes?
Second reading. Second reading.
Second reading, 7 votes.
On a different night.
First up, let's put the date in.
It's worth a shot.
Is William Alicia of 15 Quinn Drive.
Good evening, everybody.
Just tap on it. You're good.
Okay, it's working.
Oh, wait, before you start, sorry. Ryan did get a text from the downstairs. It is up and running, so people at home should be able to hear it. Hopefully someone will text and say that I was right.
It is, yep.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of them.
Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. I'm up here today. My name is William Alisea. I'm the union president for the Holyoke Fire Department. I'm here to stand today with all my members back here. We hope you vote for this in favor of this contract. We negotiated hard for 2 years with the city solicitor. We came to an agreement. The members have been waiting a long time. Money owed, they deserve. We worked very hard in the last 2 years for this, and they deserved it. I don't have much more to say on that. I do want to speak on another matter. So last week, it's disappointing. Last week, what the comments we heard from certain city councilors, we came in about, about the Holyoke Fire Department and how we're just a vote to them. The correct number of members that live in the city is 70% of the Holyoke firefighters live in the city of Holyoke, and they all vote. We're not just a vote to you guys, And then the number was incorrect. You guys said 30%, so I don't know where you're getting your source. My source is the chief of the fire department, 70%. It's not your 100%, but it's 70. It's a lot of votes. To compare us to the brothers in blue is totally wrong. We equally have dangers in both our jobs. That was an insult to all the firefighters and their families, and it's wrong. We negotiated real hard for this contract, and I believe all parties, it'll benefit all parties in this contract. Thank you.
Next on the list is Chris Butler of 25 Hickory Street.
Hello, Chris Butler. I'm a Ward 5 resident and a voter. I bought my house in 1998. I've been on the fire department for 17 years. I have 2 kids. Both of them went through the Holyoke Public Schools. My daughter was the captain of the Holyoke High cheerleaders. She currently attends LaSalle College in Newton, where she's succeeding, and she's also a voter. My son, he'll be a senior next year at Holyoke High. He's a member of the student government, and he is also on the high school golf team. Please do not punish them just because some of our members don't live in the city. I was on the negotiating team that negotiated this contract. It's a fair contract. And it failed our body. Many of you are upset with certain aspects of the contract. That's how you know it's fair. Both sides are not getting everything they wanted. Both sides are upset over certain parts of the contract. A few years back, this city had a black eye with a drug scandal that happened within the fire department and the police department. At that time, many of you sitting at these seats called for drug testing of every cop and every firefighter within the city. This contract enables it. The same contract was given to the police, and you guys voted that one through. This contract also keeps overtime in check. It's a well-known fact now in the city that we have a vacation day buyback program, and it works. It keeps the overtime in check. This new contract increases that program, further controlling overtime costs. This contract also deals with the closing of Engine 2 and the budget cuts within the fire department. I guess all I'm doing is asking you to please vote and think about, our families that are relying on you guys tonight. Thank you.
Next is April Rex of 71 Southampton Road.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight again. My name is April Rex. To stay on point, I'd like to read from some notes that I've taken. I refuse to make this about blue or red, any sort of comparison or argument. However, for the city councilors that believe it is harder to wear blue than red, I offer the following. In the United States today, there is approximately the same number of firefighters as there are policemen at 1.1 million. In 2017, 92 firefighter deaths and 135 policeman deaths, again, statistically the same. You want to know what's not the same? In this fine city of Holyoke, police officer salaries are reported as being $55,975, while firefighter salaries are reported as being $48,002. Do you want some more statistics? The Holyoke Police Department currently employs approximately 157 members, while the Holyoke Fire Department only employs 127. Is this really about red or blue? It took me 10 minutes to figure out these statistics, 10. But you know what? It's taken me 17 years to understand what it means to be a firefighter. 17 years I've watched my husband miss countless holidays, anniversaries, vacations. He's missed our only child's first words, first steps, hundreds of basketball events, family events, soccer games, traveling to Spain. He's missed teaching him how to drive. But you know what he's earned? He's earned multiple trips to the hospital as a result of his job. The constant worry about infectious diseases every time he's spit on, puked on, bled on, delivered a baby, picked up bodies, and removed drug paraphernalia from the citizens of this city. Multiple bruises from family members fighting to attempt to get where they didn't belong, and he's not received any support from this body. I have watched this job and his brothers and sisters in red take priority in his life. He lives, eats, and breathes this city and that department. He has been celebrated for his successes, discounted for his contributions, and taken advantage of for his dedication, and left in the shadows of his mind when the only thing he has left at night are the memories of everything he has seen, endured, and accomplished. You may say they sleep at night and therefore they deserve less pay. I encourage you to spend the night with a firefighter sleep. They lead to mental fatigue, PTSD, and now the #1 cause of firefighter deaths in this country, suicide. So the next time you want to debate about how hard it is to wear blue or red, I encourage you to consider spending a week at my house, which by the way is in Holyoke and has been for nearly 20 years, despite the fact of a failing school system and a lack of support from this body. Thank you.
Next is Jordan Lemieux from 1035 Hamden Street.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm also here. I'm not speaking on a contract. I'm retired, 32 years with Holyoke Fire Department. I'm going to give you a little history lesson, though. I've negotiated many, many, many contracts. And you know what? When it comes in front of this body is when both parties agree. The city, whoever negotiated for them, and I go back to Jerry Johnson and Harry Brunault. Joe, you probably remember those two. You're about the only one as old as I am. So, you know, that's it. The contract's been negotiated. The budget committee, the city council, your job is to fund it. Either it's up or it's down. It's not to talk about it. It's not to drive a wedge or try to drive a wedge between police and fire. Shame on you. I can tell you right now that the police and fire in this town stand together as one. As one. I'll give you another little lesson. The Sullivan administration, Mike Sullivan, had random drug testing on the table, and the firefighters agreed. We said, yeah, you guys can have it. Okay, there was an administration change. Sully said he wasn't running anymore. The next mayor came in. The very first meeting after that, the city came to us and said, drug language is off the table. It's not that important to us. So it wasn't costing 4%. It was costing nothing. And the 4% label that was placed on it for the guys that drive hood trucks, guess what? 3 years prior, it was 0. 0 and 0. 3 years. So if you go 4 and 3 and zeros, they're getting ones. They're not getting 4% for drug testing. They're getting 4% for doing the job they do and doing it damn well. And where your figure was 1% off, it's actually 71%. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a mathematician. So who did my thing for me, and it took them all of 2 minutes, was a senior at Providence College, majoring in accounting, and actually he's double majoring right now in accounting and financing, and it took him all of 2 seconds to figure out 127 firefighters, 90 living in the city. 90. That's a lot of votes. A lot of votes. Okay, especially when the mayor in his first primary won by how many? 1. Imagine what 90 would do. So, like I said, I don't have a financial dog in this race. All I'm asking you is to do what's right. Give these fine gentlemen and women behind me the raise they deserve. And while we're at it, what do we suffer? Cancer at a rate that is growing and growing and growing. And if you don't think it's dangerous, here, I downloaded some facts and figures myself, and it took me about 2 seconds. The picture, if you want me to pass it around, I'll be happy. It's from the International Association of Firefighters. It's Danny Boyle, dead at the age of 40, leaving 2 children and a wife. Where did he contract the brain cancer? At a paint factory fire on Sargent Street. All right, that's one. Ray Deshays, who remembers Ray? Joe probably does. Killed at the Daily Hotel fire when a building fell on him. Crushed to death, leaving 3 children and a wife. All right, so please, please don't tell me, because I'm not going to argue whose job is more dangerous, the police or the fire. You know, the cops have had it rough this past year, all over, not just Holyoke, all over. Okay, I'll give you another piece of history.
Your time.
Give me another 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, thank you. I was the first one in the Holyoke Fire Department issued a bulletproof vest because my life was threatened after the Parsons fire by the nice little gang down in South Holyoke called 30 South or whatever the hell their name was. All right, the bounty on my head was $200. When I said, "Oh, is that all I'm worth?" They increased it to $500. So there, it's not about money. It's not about drug testing. They already got drug testing, actually. It's about doing the right thing. Please give these guys a raise. Thank you.
Thank you. Caroline Levine from 10 McGinnis Ave? Or Magnus Ave, sorry.
McGinnis.
Oh.
Hi. I'm actually speaking on a totally different subject, sorry. On agenda item 25A and B, the Sun Valley properties. This is the 4th time I've come to speak before the City Council or the DGR committee. Just to quickly recap, there were 4 properties on Sun Valley Road in West Holyoke that were put up for auction in 2016 by the city. And to be clear, they were not foreclosures, they were city-owned properties. They were taken by eminent domain in the 60s because of a drainage easement that runs through all 4 properties. And only one abutter, who is here, won one of the properties at the auction. Another one was sold to 2 city employees who violated the terms of their deed. As we understand it, they've leveled the property. They have left debris in the easement. It has flooded multiple times since they did that, and I'm talking 3 feet of water, not little puddles. I did provide photos to the DGR committee, so Mr. Bartley should have those for you. We are asking that the city make a final determination that these properties are not buildable because the owners have now put them up for sale, which our understanding is that that is not legal based on the auction rules, and that they are listing it as completely buildable with permission from the city to do so. We're asking you to determine that they are not in fact buildable, that because the owners have violated the terms of their deed, that the properties revert back to the city. We're actually asking about 2 separate properties. One is lot 167, which nothing has been done to, but the winner of the property in the tax auction has already sold that property to someone else, which, as we understand, violates the rules of the auction. The other is, lot 136, which has completely violated the terms of their quitclaim deed. We ask that the properties be reverted back to the city and maybe even ultimately offered to abutters who have approached the city many times over the last 40 or 50 years asking if we can purchase it. We understand the importance of the easement. We recognize that if it's not properly maintained, all of our surrounding properties are at risk for flooding and damage, and we're already seeing that happen after this winter. So we ask you to consider it. We have lots of information for you if you need it. We've done our research, and we just really appreciate your time looking into this. Thank you.
Next is Lynn Henderson from 53 Sun Valley Road.
Hi, I'm Lynn. My husband and I were lucky enough to purchase one of those properties at the auction. It was the first one up for auction, so we were lucky. We then sat through while the others were auctioned off. We, as abutters, were not presented with the opportunity to purchase those properties beforehand, even though the previous owner of my property did address the city about that, and we know that the other abutters have also. We are just asking that the terms of the original deed of the properties be honored, and that they were taken by eminent domain. It's not a tax foreclosure. You know, they weren't just abandoned properties. There was a reason the city owned them, to maintain those drainage easements. Thank you.
Thank you. Last is Ann Tallheimer from 8 Clark Street.
Hi, folks. I'm here speaking in support of items 14, 43, 44, and 45, which are all related to traffic concerns in Ward 3. They're all a good start to resolving some of the traffic issues that we see there. We've done some work on that this year. Lowering the speed limit is going to help this a bit as relates to 21H, which some folks have done work on. We appreciate that. But there's still a lot of traffic stuff going on in Ward 3 that we need to address. There's also, we need to do education, enforcement, and engineering. It's going to take kind of a bigger picture getting things done. Particularly like that dangerous corner on the corner of Laurel and Brown, where people just go every which way through those stop signs. We're seeing a lot of verbal warnings being given, but the offenses keep happening. Similar things we're seeing on Clark and Gilman. There's been some police enforcement of the don't block the box, but of course as soon as the police leave, the box is again blocked. This makes it very difficult for us to get around. Smaller cut-through streets are reporting a lot of related issues. Hitchcock Street is notorious for this. There's that flashing yellow light, which residents generally feel should turn into a stop sign because people just treat it like a speedway. There are ongoing other things. There's that turn onto Westfield is a hazard. People go around it to try to make the turn. There's a large truck that parks at the end. Which makes it very hard to see the traffic coming down Hitchcock. One resident stated, "I called the police repeatedly when we first moved to the neighborhood, and I was almost hit both on foot and in my car. Nothing happened, and now I just hold my breath when I cross." This is unacceptable. We don't have a school marker for Metcalf. There's that area of Martin between Westfield Road and Hitchcock. We've done some work on Martin. Left-hand turns. 45 particularly, I think, addresses some of these left-hand turns coming out of the plaza on South Street, both at the top of Northampton Street and down in that area by the ice rink. Those are items on your agenda tonight that we can address. Brown and Laurel, perpetual problem. Carlton, perpetual problem. And there's no left turn signal at the intersection of Northampton and Beach Cherry, even though there's one in every other direction. And there have been multiple accidents at that intersection. Traffic's a big issue. It's a continuing issue. We've done some work on it. We appreciate that. There's more to be done. We appreciate your efforts in that, but we need to continue to work on this. So I am speaking in support of the traffic items we have for Ward 3, 14, 43, 44, 45, but let's keep this going. There's more work to be done in Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you. With that ends public comment. Councilor Leahy.
I'd like to make a motion to take item number 22 out of order.
Motion is to take item 22C. 22C out of order.
Mr. President.
Councilor McGivern.
I'd like to add a second amendment to take out items 21, 22H, 22C, then 22A, and do them in that order, please.
So 21.
22I, sorry, 22H, 22C, and then 22A.
Second.
So the motion is to take up, suspend the rules, take up 21, 22I, 22H, 22C, and 22A. For suspension of the rules, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So 21.
Each would require a separate vote. If we could go one at a time, please.
Councilor McGivern, 21, you want 21A?
What I'm trying to do, Mr. President, is dispose of the items that we need to dispose of first in some housekeeping. The discussion I think is going to follow is going to be germane to each of these orders, and I have no problem having one discussion. But the idea is, if the final vote or the 22C vote would be the most important vote in terms of the firefighters' contract itself.
I understand that. You said 21.
21I.
I corrected to 20I.
22I.
21.
22I.
So not 21.
22I.
22I. Okay.
Yeah.
So the motion is not for 21, 22I, 22H, 22C, 22A. It's take 21 out. So all those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Okay. So 21I. I mean 22I.
22I. And 22H.
We're going to get this. We're going to get it. All right. So 22I. Committee on Finance was referred in order that they're hereby appropriated $155,571.90 from stabilization to, and it goes through several different positions for the firefighters. And the committee has recommended that it be denied. All members signing off.
If I can remind the City Council and the members of the audience, this is the original order that was placed before us. It was incorrectly combined with both the pay for the fire chief and the pay for the deputy chiefs, which is a separate, not yet before us contract. We have had orders which will be following 22 options of 22H and 22C, which will be following for the firefighters' contract. And this is just an item that we need to dispose of because, one, we cannot vote on it as it is, which we determined because it is not germane to just one contract. It goes for 2 contracts plus the fire chief. So I'm just asking that we do some housekeeping and rid ourselves of this as we go forward for the final vote on the fireman's contract.
So is there a motion? Motion is to pass the first reading?
First reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. It was seconded. Councilor McGivern gave the report. Anyone else? No? Motion
to pass the second reading.
Hold on. Motion to pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to pass the second reading from Councilor Tallman. It was seconded. So with that, for a second reading, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, and this is the weird one, you vote yes, you're voting to deny it. If you vote no, you're voting to pass it. And for clarification, because I know it's a little confusing. As Councilor McGivern said, we were given a request for $155,971 from stabilization to pay for the contract. You also have a request from free cash, but also there was an adjustment in the numbers. So this one is just housekeeping because this is, in essence, the first order that has been amended for number purposes. Does everyone understand that? All right, so once again, if you vote yes, you're voting to deny this, which was the committee report.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you've approved the denial of 22I. Notice I didn't say 21. All right, so
President, if I can make a suggestion for the purpose of discussion, we do 22H and 22C together. H would be the transfer coming from the stabilization account, and C would be the transfer coming from free cash.
Do we need to do both?
I said for the purpose of discussion, I'd like to get the discussion out of the way, and then we would have to vote separately.
Correct. You have to vote separately on that.
Okay.
All right, so motion is to take up for discussion purposes 22H and 22C, of which you'll have to vote on them separately because they're from 2 different accounts, but they are the same appropriation. So motion is to receive, so first to take up as for discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to receive and pass the first reading. Receive, adopt, pass first reading?
Correct.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is received, adopt, pass first reading. There was second. All in discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. A quick note and then the committee report and an explanation, and just certainly I'm open for questions on a lot of different things. The amount needed to honor the fireman's contract that's before us, which the actual contract, I think, as you each know, is item 22A. We've had that language and contract in our hands for well, almost a month and a half, close to 2 months. The amount needed to honor this year, which would ratify the contract for this year and future years, is $142,052.84. The Finance Committee has been working hard on which is our responsibility, the contract and the appropriations for the contract. In this government, and the mayor makes the initial appropriation, but it does not become law or does not become an appropriation until this body passes it itself. For the purpose of, if the body chose for the money to come from stabilization, that would be a 2/3 vote this evening. That would always be a 2/3 vote. The committee is recommending not to use stabilization. The committee's recommendation is based on stabilization should not be used for operating expenses, and stabilization should not be used at any time for salaries. The second, free cash, the committee did not make a recommendation on it. The reason although we did study the contract, and I'll make a report on the contract in 1 minute, the committee did not make a recommendation on free cash because at the time last Monday, we had a number of orders before us that total more than, as explained by Councilor McGee and myself earlier this evening, total more than the actual free cash. We have now denied 2 of the free cash orders, the $75,000 and the $79,000 2 weeks ago. So there is no issue of free cash for the 2 remaining orders that are before us. This $142,052.84 and the $50,000 one that follows the Mata Della Rosa proposal, which is still in the Finance Committee. So there's no issue about voting yes or no. These are eligible transfers, and at this moment, we would not be in violation of state law if we used either one of these items. The committee, again, did not make the recommendation, and I think we can all make our own arguments in a minute, but let's understand what the committee did do and what is before us. Our responsibility is the money for the contract. When we vote on that, it does ratify a contract. We are not allowed to negotiate a contract. We are not allowed to intervene when a contract is on the table. We can look at a contract for what impact it has on the current budget, and we certainly can look at a contract for what impact it would have on future budgets. We always need to know the source of the money that is to pay for the appropriation, and we certainly can debate and argue that, and we certainly can understand the reasons for why a contract is negotiated, and I think we heard a number of, including the President of the Union, tell us that it was negotiated both in good faith, a hard contract, fought very difficult, and not everybody is pleased by the entire contract itself, but it's before us now for our purview. So just a couple of the highlights. We've had this contract for some time now. The contract dates back to July 1st of 2016, which would be a 0% increase. Part of it is very difficult to go back in prior fiscal years, especially more than one. On July 1st of 2017, which would be this year, it's a 1.5% increase. That is equal to what is needed to honor that 1.5%, the $142.52.84. The January 1st increase of 2018 is 1.5%, and the July 1st increase of 2018 would be 5%. The 5% is broken down to 4% that was negotiated for the added language for drug testing, and 1%, I believe, is related to the longevity, which also was part of the negotiation for drug testing. There's future effects of the contract and items to take into consideration. Although we didn't receive it at our last meeting, we did receive from the auditor an outline of the impacts by year. Again, fiscal 2018, this is the end of fiscal 2018, is the 142. In fiscal 2019, ratifying this contract would have an increase for salaries of captains, lieutenants, firefighters, and the alarm division of $671,300, an additional $22,800 in a new longevity, which I'll explain in 1 minute, and vacation buyback, which was $220,000. The $220,000, if I remember, the auditor explained was the anticipated buyback. It may not all be related to the contract, but the contract will have an impact on that. The final year of the contract, 2020, the salary part, the impact, new impact will be $104,200. The longevity change, which does have part of the what we're looking at, is a difference of 10 years of service becoming 1.5% of base salary, 15 years of service becoming 1.75 base of salary, 20 years service, 2% of the base salary, 25 years, 3% of the base salary, in 30 years would be $3,000 or 4%, whichever would be greater. All of these items, all these financial items were talked at great length about a month ago when we had both the city solicitor who negotiated the contract and the auditor before us. Last week we did have the auditor and the members of the union, the president of the union and other members of the union also participated in our discussions. Again, the responsibility of the city council is the appropriations. The discussion that we've heard this evening and the discussion that you've heard on Facebook is certainly related to remarks and things that have been said through these discussions, but our ultimate responsibility is to say yay or nay based on affordability, based on source of the revenue itself, based on the position that, of the city in terms of this contract and the impact the contract has on it. With that in mind, that sums up the review of the Finance Committee. I'm not sure if any other members of the Finance Committee would like to add anything to that. And Mr. President, I will reserve comment to state my own feelings and about how I'm going to vote tonight after we get through a question and answer period.
Anyone else? If there's going to be a question and answer, do you want to take up 22H first with stabilization, or do you want to do question and answer on both?
I'm suggesting, and it's up to the body, that 22H, a vote. If anybody wants to argue the stabilization argument, we should do that first. Stabilization is an option. It's an option individually that we have this evening. It could play into how you wish to vote on the second option, which is free cash. It could not play into how you wish to vote if your opinions and ideas are different than the source of money, but more important to the impact of money. But I would suggest, knowing from what we heard in committee, knowing the recommendation of the committee, that we could dispose of stabilization and concentrate on free cash, but that's up to the will of the body.
Councilor Sullivan.
Just a question for the chairman, through the chair. Joe, earlier tonight, we approved $75,000 out of free cash transfer to special counsel. I thought we said we only had $186,000 left. That would knock it down to 110, wouldn't it?
No.
With the approval of the $75,000, I may have misspoken a second ago. The amount left is $188,413.53. Okay. If you add that $50,000 to this 142, the difference of what we have for free cash is $3,675.31. Even though it's minimal, it's there's other ways to find that amount of money. I think is the point I would have tried to have made. But on the table this evening, there is free cash with no strings attached, other than the impact it would have on the $50,000 that's left. Which again, we do have the other option for the $50,000, as in this case, for stabilization.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Relative to the contract and the financial merits of it, I think the concern is around the expense of the second year. However, as a point of personal privilege, since not by name, but everybody in the room knows, the people at the microphone, we're talking about me. I have responded to the one person who communicated directly to me, directly back to her. And I will stand by my words on the tape relative to my comments. They're on Facebook. If you actually listen to my words, you will know that I was speaking about the residency law in the city of Holyoke. The contrast that I was drawing was a personal knowledge on my part of, in the case of the police department, where families have been threatened. I was drawing a distinction between that threat for the police department and the fire department. I did not ever disparage the work of the fire department, nor would I. My husband was a volunteer firefighter in the community that we lived in before we moved here. So to take my words and twist them in that way is offensive. And I have never uttered words of disrespect about the work, the danger, or the value of either the police department in word, deed, action, or marching, nor have I ever about the fire department. I have a right to have my opinions relative to residency. I've stated them publicly and repeatedly that if living here is good enough to get the job, then staying here is good enough to have the job. It's the law in our city. It has been flagrantly violated. I was a member of the committee that closed the loophole in the law to uphold our residency law. They exist in other communities. It's not an onerous law. It's just something I happen to be a believer in. We can agree to disagree in that regard, but our local law in that regard is clear. And we have been advised that if we approve a contract that changes in our local law, that the local law becomes moot. And so that was the distinction that I was making, and my words on the tape refer to that if you listen to the tape. Thank you.
Councilor Valentin.
Thank you. I'm actually sitting here at 8:15 tonight, Tuesday, still undecided on how I'm going to vote on this. And so I want to make the following statement. I respect the work of the Holyoke Fire Department. I actually know some of you, have had interactions with some of you. And in no way, just as Councilor Vacan stated, would I purposefully try to put down your work or the sacrifices that you make. I appreciate the stories that the wife was able to share, and they were a reminder of the personal approach and the personal piece that comes to the table when we think about public safety in general. So I want to start by saying, in no way am I looking to undermine the work and the sacrifices that you all do and your colleagues that are not in this room right now. That being said, I'm also a union member. I work at Holyoke Community College, been there 12 years. I was the grievance officer for 5 years, so I know. And I see the union president smirking because we know what the headaches are like, right? And so I value unions, and I want to say that very clearly, very unequivocally. However, I need to honestly say that I'm sitting here still not sure how I'm going to vote on this because I am concerned about the financial piece that is tied to all of this. And the whole, can we afford this? How does this, pan out? How does this play out? So I can't ignore that either. What I do want to say for some of the folks during public comment that made comments, or we can call them threats, that's okay, around votes, I don't appreciate that. So I have to say that. I need to be honest, and I need to be completely transparent and say, if you want me as an ally, if you want to build bridges with me, threatening me with, we can take the votes away, doesn't really rub my belly. So, I'm just...
All right, hey,
hold up.
Hey, no, we're not doing that here. No.
So, I heard several folks talk about being residents of Holyoke, being voters. So I just want to put out there that if any of that narrative is around the topic of, if you guys don't vote our way, we will make sure you guys, I'm just saying, if that is the tone, I just want you all to understand that it doesn't look favorable. If that was not the intention, I was not here when the original conversation took place. But again, if we're looking to be allies, if we're looking to be bridge builders, we need to work together in different ways. So I just wanted to make those points, and I'm happy to speak individually with folks later. I don't want Todd to have to scold anybody, but those were the points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Anyone else? So the first action would be to take up 22H, which is a request for $142,052.84 from stabilization to pay for the contract that Councilor McGivern gave a very detailed analysis of. Would that be the pleasure of the body? All right, so a motion is to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading, which is to adopt that it be denied.
So then, hypothetically, if I could, if that's denied, then we're going to move over to 22C, which is a mirror image of it, but it would be from free cash.
So good question, Councilor A. So 22H is the stabilization. Same number is 22C, which is from free cash.
Okay, I just want to make it clear for the people playing at home.
Yep. So is there a motion?
Motion to pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, that the request from stabilization be denied. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, once again you're voting yes to deny the request from stabilization. If you vote no, you're voting to take from stabilization.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you've approved the request to deny from stabilization. Now the motion would be to take up 22C, to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, which this is that the City Council refer without a recommendation, as Councilor McGivern has pointed to as to why it was referred out that way. So motion would be to receive, adopt, and approve the request of $142,052.84 from free cash. Correct?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Councilor McGivern.
I can make a motion to go to the second reading, Mr. President. I'd just like to talk under discussion.
Second.
So we can go to discussion now. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stated, I wanted to make my own because we could not do it, and we chose not to do it in the Finance Committee out of respect for the ruling from the Mass General Law and the interpretation of the Mass General Law, which we've been able to overcome this evening. So I won't say any more on that, except the Finance Committee, or even us as individuals, did not take a position in order not to violate any state law. But now comes the time for a vote. And I will have to echo some of the words of Councilor Valentine, that this is an incredible, difficult vote. Not because of the men and women who are standing behind us. There is no issue to dispute that they deserve a good contract. There is no debate to have to say that they don't have the equal responsibilities of public safety and putting their lives in danger on a daily basis whenever they go to work. And sometimes that's in a quick as a fire that could happen on New Year's Day, or as stated, and I have some friends in a different state who have suffered and understand the chemicals that firefighters inhale unknown sometimes, and the hardships and health issues that become part of their future and part of their early life, unfortunately, in this type of a career. There is no issue about that. There's no issue that the contract was negotiated, was a difficult negotiation. I heard, and I tried to get a better answer from our department heads, that there are that the contract is the same or very close to the police contract, which negotiated a number of things, including some drug testing and some issues. I was given a copy of the contract, but I only received it late today, and I didn't have time to thoroughly review it in terms of numbers. But just in recollection, and if you remember, I think we passed that contract a budget and a half ago. As a matter of fact, it's up for negotiation starting July 1 of next year. And I believe that there are similarities, and I think we have to take that into consideration. With that in mind, I'm going to vote in favor of the contract, and it's going to be for this reasons, because this group is a group of individuals that literally put their lives on the line for the city. It's a group of individuals that have never asked for a lot, and in the first time in a long time have a contract that, and I do see some concerns, but a contract that recognizes that. I openly questioned the percentage in the longevity pay and the increases, not for the immediate impact, but for any time you go to a percentage in base salaries increase as steps, as an individual goes through steps, it's an automatic increase with little budgetary controls over it. It's not a large part of the salary. It's not going to be a large part impact on future budgets, but it is something to take into consideration. The 4% is arguable. I don't know how you put a percentage on the ability to negotiate drug testing, but I see this as more than just drug testing. I see this as our unions don't often have time to negotiate things because there isn't much in front of the city in terms of what they can add on. The city can add on to their daily work days and work lives, and how much they can give back to the city. So it's sometimes when this comes along, they're arguing for COLA increases that they did not receive fiscal year 2016, which is part of this contract. I do so knowing that it's going to be a major impact next year in a budget that is already looking to have a deficit itself. I learned that the deficit that has been projected does include the amount in the salary for the contract that's before us this evening. So it's not in addition to the deficit. And I've stated many years during the budget process that a budget is a snapshot in time. There is no way, there is no municipality in this Commonwealth that can truly say on July 1st of any given year they have a balanced budget. It's based on estimated revenue, it's based on estimated expenses, and it's something that needs to be adjusted and tweaked as we go along. This would be a major adjustment depending what adjustments we make over the next 2 weeks. And I openly stated in the Finance Committee meeting that we are just slowly making up for the tax dollars we lost when the Mount Tom coal plant closed. A major hit to our budget process, to our tax base itself. That's fact, and that's something that we have to deal with. The moment in time, we have no control over that, is these firefighters have their own budgets at home. They have their own families to take care of. That's not going to change. This is the one opportunity we have to respect that and to honor that and to give them a type of increase that will give them some quality of life in terms of the of their home life and their families and so on. The one issue, and this is not a threat, and I will fight not to let it happen, is if we don't make up the revenue side of the budget, we are getting to a point, and I've said this, making line item cuts in a budget doesn't do anything. We are getting to a point where we're going to have to start looking at reducing our departments. I've said this to the police, I've said it to the firefighters, there's things we can do in the DPW budget where we're going to have to start reducing staff. Think about that, because that's a big impact on the fire department. As Allison Rex said, it's not a large fire department by no means in terms of what it faces in the city. And it's not saying that we don't need the size of the fire department, that we don't need the number of cruisers on the street, but affordability is part of this. And when we can't afford it, we have to reduce it. And that's not the first time that's happened in this city. It is ugly, and I will fight not to let it happen. But any impact on the budget, that's always the potential. That is the only way that we could resolve it down the road. That's my opinion, Mr. President, and I know it's just a struggle for each of us. There is no correct, right, or wrong answer, There is sometimes you have to go from the heart, or sometimes you have to go from the heart and the mind, and this one is a little bit of both on my part. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Mr. President, I was wondering if you, because as part of this debate, if we could take and read into the record the mayor's, I think it's agenda item number 7, because it is relevant, especially the 3rd paragraph of his letter. Could we just take that up now? If you could read that, please, Mr. President, or I'll read it if you want me to.
Motion is to suspend the rules, take up item number 7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? June 14, 2018. Dear councilors, I've been asked to provide clarity on the priorities of the administration as to the City Council currently considering financial orders regarding the collective bargaining agreement with employees of the Holyoke Fire Department, as well as orders regarding the Mata Del Rosa Church. I support both of these orders, and as such, I have filed these appropriations from multiple sources to give councilors options as you consider your vote. In regard to the collective bargaining agreement with the Firefighters Union, I support the appropriation for either free cash or stabilization. Having watched the discussion of finance regarding the agreement, I understand the concerns regarding the drug testing and residency. Please understand that if the council votes down the appropriation request, this would be voting against ratification of the contract, and in turn would enable the administration to renegotiate the agreement. In regards to Mata Del Rosa, I fully support the sale from either free cash or stabilization, and ask that the council act swiftly to approve the sale. The attendance to Monday night's meeting at DGNR and further discuss my opinions in this matter. I appreciate your due diligence on both these matters and look forward to our discussion from Alex Morris, the mayor.
Motion received.
Motion is to receive. Second. Anything else, Councilor Bartley, or that's it?
No, I just wanted to make sure that was read to the record. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Leahy.
Speaking to a lot of these guys and a lot of people throughout the course of this week, the one thing I'm reminded of is the firefighters' ball, and I've gone. I think to everyone that I've been invited to, which I think is all of them. And one of the things that sticks out the most is when I am called to duty, God, whatever flames may raise, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. And towards the ending, very powerful. According to your will, I must answer death's call. Blessed with you, protecting hand, my family, one and all. Then they ring a bell. It's very powerful. And yet I'm not here basing any decisions on emotions. But really, how can you not? If you look at the positions these men and women have, they're very challenging. The majority of these people here are out in the street doing the work. They have selected union representatives to do their job negotiating, and they did it. Are they all happy with it? No. Is the city all happy with it? No. But as someone indicated earlier, a good negotiation is when both sides leave unhappy. I didn't want to take this out of stabilization. I voted no. I also tried, and I think I succeeded, to not have some other money on our free cash spent. I am in favor of this. I am in favor of the Holyoke Fire Department, so I will be voting for this. God bless the Holyoke Fire Department.
Anyone else? Councilor Roman.
Yes, I just have a few clarification questions, Mr. President, through you, if I may, through the Chair of Finance. Once we approve this, what will be the final number left over in free cash? If we approve it, let me say it that way. I apologize.
I like your vote.
If approved, thanks, Nelson. You had to ask that way, huh?
You can use your toes.
It'll be $50,000 minus $3,675.31. So it'll be 46 something.
Change. 46 and change. Okay. And again, through you, one final question. Again, sorry to keep the chair on his toes. With the only request that you said is still pending in committee is the Mata Del Rosa transfer request, correct?
That's correct. There are two in committee.
Okay.
50 from stabilization or 50 from free cash. If this is approved, we would not be able to use the 50 from free cash in its entirety. We'd have to have a different vote, a different order to use any free cash for Monte Della Rosa.
Just point of order, Joe.
Yes.
The free cash was 236, or is that number different now?
Maybe.
Prior, forget the 75. Let's
236, 639, 31 minus 10,000 minus 75,000, right? And then if we vote on this, we'd be
so
minus.
That's 151, 639 minus 142, 052. That leaves you $9,587. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I just have one final one. Sorry, Mr. President. It's just the free cash, right, for the public at home, just trying to let them know, right, anyone watching, how long does free cash have to last us for our budget purposes or as a body?
It's supposed to last you for the fiscal year, and then usually it carries over the excess.
Okay. And
we have 2 weeks left.
2 weeks left. No, I'm just trying to clarify for folks at home, public at the home, so everyone knows free cash is supposed to last us to the end of June 30th, and then we're supposed to get recertified again. Our numbers have been going down, but I'm going to vote in favor of it because we have enough to cover it. I think it's going to put in a particular bind for me, as with many of my colleagues voting. Right, we vote on this. I love and support the Holyoke Fire Department as well. But when it comes to that vote for then Mater Dolores, I struggle with using stabilization fund like most of my colleagues here. And so that's going to put me in a bind for that. And so I don't, right, it's putting us between a rock and a hard place. Because again, that deal is tied into some land that we could possibly build a new school or new housing. And so I'm going to vote in favor of it. But it's tough. It's tough for me today because I feel, since I've been on this body the last 3 years, we continuously get put in these financial situations, and this is nothing just about this contract. As free cash gets less, and yes, with my colleague, Councilor McGivern is saying we're coming over the cliff of Mount Tom closing, but I agree with my colleague, Councilor Vacan. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think we're producing, whether that's marijuana companies or whomever, enough tax base yet for us to be out of that hump. So I'm dreading looking at this budget cycle, like many of us are, and I want more answers, and exactly that. If we have positions or places where there's money saved, we should we have to make cuts in order to afford. So I'm going to be voting in favor of this, but I wanted to clarify those 3 things for the public. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Tallman.
Yes, as a member of the Finance Committee, I really took a lot of time to look at this situation with the firefighters and the contract, and looking through the contract and what the city had done and the union had done, sit down and negotiated a fair contract. There's things in there that maybe I'm not totally agree upon, but I think with at the end of the day, with the work you do day in and day out, it's not an easy job. I've seen firsthand the amount of work you do on a daily basis, and it's really admirable to hear the people talk about what their family members went through and are still going through. I have always been supportive of the fire department. It's difficult because of the cost and the cost down the road, but hopefully in the years to come we'll be able to pull in some more tax dollars, and it's not an easy thing, but as the years go on, we have to look at what's going to happen down the road. But I am very much in support the work of the firefighters, and I applaud you for the day-to-day work you do in the job in the city of Holyoke, and I know that you're all proud of the city, whether you live here or not, and really want to thank you for the work you do each day.
Anyone else? Councilor Bartley, you had a question?
I'll just make a quick comment. So I really appreciate Councilor McGivern. I just want to give him, I don't like to name councilors by name, I rarely do it, but I really appreciate Joe's work in Finance Committee and his summary tonight. I thought it was very fair. I mean, I kind of knew where Joe was voting on this anyhow. I think, if anybody's been in the presence of Councilor McGivern for a while, I think we knew where he was going with it. But I think his summary of that was very fair. For me, Mr. President, it's not a matter of, has nothing to do with my admiration for the firefighters, many whom I've known for many years, and I consider them friends. And so for me, this is really a hard vote, because I know where this is going to go, Mr. President. This is going to lead to an even tighter budget. As we know, we are $2.4 million out of balance for, and I know you heard earlier from one of the councilors saying, well, that happens all the time. Well, not 2.4 million, Mr. President. It's never been out of balance to that effect. So that's a big hit starting off the fiscal year. I would also suggest too that we're going to have other union contracts from other very sizable unions coming down the road, and then at some point it's going to go into paying for salaries and we have councilors here, you know, despite the rhetoric, you know, I voted against stabilization. Well, baloney. They voted for stabilization to take the salaries out here. They know they did it. So they can say what they want now, but the record's a record. They know they voted for out of stabilization for these raises. They did it 2 meetings ago. And they'll do it again. Now, at this point, we do have barely enough free cash, and I'll remind the councilors that it was because we cut, and most of these same councilors who won't cut a penny from the budget, we cut $1.1 million last year. Those same councilors here, oh, gee whiz, I won't vote out of stabilization. I wouldn't do it ever. Baloney. Well, we have other unions that are going to be coming here, renegotiating with the same administration, probably, and they're going to want their raises, and they're going to look back on this vote, and they're going to look back on this vote saying, well, you took it out of free cash. Well, why can't you take it out of stabilization? That's just a. I mean, I'm gonna support this tonight, Mr. President. I'm gonna support the firefighters tonight just for all the work that they do, because I just know so many of them. But the warning's been laid. Are layoffs going to come? I have no idea. I do know we're going to get other union contracts coming through here, and I do know we're going to have other councilors voting to take out our stabilization, and then what? Fortunately, there's always going to be a 2/3 barrier, but Mr. President, that's just going to be those are going to be hard votes against departments that obviously we all respect, despite some of the rhetoric, and we know why the rhetoric happens, Mr. President. Emotions run high, and I just wanted to say on record how much I admire my friend Linda for taking, you know, we've all taken shots, but I want to support her in this, and I was there when she made her comments, and had nothing to do with how the rhetoric was portrayed. But again, I know, Mr. President, how these things get conflated and construed and twisted, and I can't believe Joe mentioned Facebook tonight. Joe, have you ever been on Facebook in your life?
The President, I resemble that.
I mean, I can't. That's an all-time first, and probably an all-time last. And it's just one of these things, Mr. President. I'll just finish this way. If we can't keep bringing up the Mount Tom coal plant, we can't keep bringing up what's gone is gone. Those are over. So now we've got to be as responsible as we can with the budget. So department heads, when we're going acting at a grade, maybe we don't have to act at a grade. Maybe we don't have to go into overtime. Maybe we can think about that down the road. Maybe we can think about your brothers and sisters coming down the road who would like to wear the uniform. Oh, geez, Councilor Bartley, geez, we got all these positions. Well, maybe as Councilor McGivern said, we have a smaller fire staff. I mean, is that what we want? I just hope we can all be fiscally prudent to the best of our ability going down the road, Mr. President. Appreciate your time.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've started taking a hard look at the budget that we have to deal with in the next few days, and it is impossible to get to balanced numbers in that budget without taking positions out of it. That's just a fact. So if we approve a contract that's going to add over $900,000 in costs to the next budget cycle, you are sacrificing jobs for more pay for the people who will have their jobs. There's no other mathematical answer to the problem that we have, because we don't have enough other costs to cut within the city. The last budget was extremely difficult, and look how close we came this year to barely making it through the year. Next year is worse for the people that are newer. It's what we're looking at is worse, and we are compounding it by what we're doing. I mean, it's taking nothing away from the work that people do, but the people that are supporting the budget are getting like 2% raises if they're lucky. And we have to consider that too. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yep, thanks. I know a lot of guys on the fire department also, and I've known William for a long time, and I think they all know where I stand on this drug testing policy. And I have no problem with them earning or deserving a 4% raise based on cost of living, based on competitive salaries. I do have a very strong issue with it being tied to as a reward for something I feel isn't worth a dime. Drug testing should be mandatory. Anybody that refuses drug testing should be fired on the spot. It's for their own safety. It's for the safety of the public. As a commercial interstate driver, required to do randoms, and it's not like it's in the policy that we have before us. That being said, that's part of the contract. I understand that. It's a way to get to the number. I don't think it's a good way. Myself, I'd like to see them get it. I'd like to see it go back for negotiation and be approved in a few months from now when we know what our free cash is, put the pressure on the administration to get the free cash for next year certified in August, and we can have some real numbers and know what we're working with. It's a budgetary thing. It's not a matter of how many guys here I like and would like to see get money. It's a matter of $900,000 that just isn't there, or start looking at some of these guys here and maybe not seeing some of their faces, because now a couple of guys get a pay raise, but somebody's going to get laid off. And that goes for other departments too, like we've said earlier. I'd rather see it come back and get it done right.
Anyone else?
On the motion.
One thing I'll point out, just so it's clear on the record, we cannot negotiate terms of a contract. It comes before us. All we can do, has been said before, but I want to make sure it's clear, is everything's subject to appropriation. That is the law that allows us to say no. We might not agree with terms in the contract, but we're saying no to the funding. So then it would be forced back to have certain aspects of the contract renegotiated, or it can come back the very same. So on the record, we are not negotiating terms, just the appropriation to the contract. With regards to some of the things that were said, I will have this comment. Everyone that's standing there, I do know. I know you personally. Whether it's baseball games, football games, what have you. School. Some of your kids go to school. I've never seen the reaction that I saw tonight, and I don't like it. If a counselor has a comment on anything, you don't attack them. Not on Facebook, not in this chamber. Those were threats. Jordan, I've known you for a long time. When you came in for the 24 hours shifts, we supported you. When there was an issue with the decimal points, no, you had your chance. When you had the decimal point issue and we're going to sue the city under Mike Sullivan's reign, we supported to pay that and get it done correctly. This board has always supported the men and women of the fire department. You cannot come in here and say that this board does not support you, that we've taken advantage of you, that we have set a debate between red and blue, that we have 90 votes that we can allocate in the city. That is shame on you. That was one of the terms. Shame on you to this board. No, not in this chamber. We have been very fair, and we've always been there to support you. When you needed ladders or new trucks, bonds had to come through. We stepped up and fought for those. We're actually fighting to do more bonds to get ladder trucks We know you have a truck from Springfield that we have to borrow to put here. When there was a very nasty fire on New Year's, I saw several of these counselors, along myself, down there supporting you, calling you to make sure everyone was okay. Do not come into this chamber and disrespect any member. This is about an appropriation. We are friends. But when it comes to the city finances, our job is to represent everybody, the taxpayer. So our job is to vote on appropriation, not to beat each other up. It's not easy. So with that, if there's no further comment, what is the will of the body for a vote? Second reading?
I have a
second reading.
Question for you, Mr. President.
Sure.
Just a point of clarification on what you just said. So, and this is for you, Mr. President. So you're saying we could approve the appropriation but deny the contract in essence? Is that?
No, the only thing we can do
is just approve.
We can vote yes, it's approved, the contract goes through, we appropriated the money for the contract.
Okay.
We vote no, not allocate the 142,052.84. Since we didn't appropriate the contract, it's null and void. It has to go back to the mayor and the union to renegotiate because we didn't allocate the funds for it. We are not negotiating terms, once again on the record. We're only approving or disapproving the appropriation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilor Fallon.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that as well? Because that's a great point. So with other items that come before us, if the body votes yes on something and the mayor does not agree with it, he decides to veto. Is that a possibility with this?
I think he's already signed this one, so he's agreed to it.
Okay.
So he's signed the contract, therefore he's approving it. Other appropriations, there is a veto power, but on this one he's already signed the contract.
Okay. So that would not be the sequence of events?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Was there someone else? I missed a hand? Or?
Just going to make a motion to go on the second.
Motion is to pass the second reading.
Second.
There's a second. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the appropriation of 142,052.84.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
No.
Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
No.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
8 yeas, 6 nays. 5 nays. 4 nays, I'm sorry.
Wait.
8-4.
8-4.
Some breasts. No.
With your vote, it did not pass. You need 9.
Mr. President, make a motion for reconsideration.
Second.
Motion is to reconsider.
Under debate.
Under debate, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Mr. President, you said that Councilor President will be coming later this evening. I would ask that we reconsider our action depending on Councilor Bresnahan's vote. He would be the 9th vote necessary to pass the appropriation this evening. If he votes no, then it would be a done deal for the rest of the
motion is to reconsider and table?
To reconsider for the purpose of tabling to see if Councilor Bresnahan is coming.
Correct me on the rules, Joe. If you table it, does it have to carry over to next?
No.
Or remove from the
You can still remove from the table.
Okay. So a motion is to reconsider and table our actions. Is there a second?
Second.
It was seconded. No further discussion. It's tabled. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The item is tabled. Joe, did we get all the ones that you wanted?
The only housekeeping we have to do, and just to clear up Councilor Roman's question, is 22A. It was on the agenda out of the committee for the purpose of discussion. The appropriation vote will settle whether the contract becomes ratified or not. So I suggest on 22A that we just we take a vote that we've received and been complied with in terms of our discussion.
22A from the Committee on Finance was referred. The collective bargaining agreement with Local 1693. It says waiting disposition. This is motion to receive and that it was complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved. We go back Communications. Number 5.
5 and 6 is a package.
5 and 6 is a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? From the mayor, reappointing Richard Alston for the Historic Commission, which will expire May 1st, 2021. 6 is for reappointment of the Board of Appeals, July 1st, 2021. That's Hilda of 267 West Franklin Street. Motion would be to receive
and approve the reappointments.
Motion is to receive and reapprove the appointments. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President, if I can just suspend the rules to take up 25A and B and to take out of order.
Second.
A and B. Motion to suspend the rules, take up 25A and B. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 25A from the Development and Government Relations Committee. 25A is the Committee on Development and Government Relations who was referred communication from the Law Department regarding Sun Valley Road. It says awaiting disposition. 25B, the Committee on Redevelopment regarding 181-00137 on Sun Valley Road. Just awaiting disposition. That's been complied with, this one says. So what are the motions?
Well, why does it say awaiting disposition? Did the committee not take a...
On the committee report, okay, sorry. Motion is to suspend rules and allow the clerk to answer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Because there was a meeting last night of the DGNR committee, they were all awaiting disposition, and this one I think just didn't get switched this morning when we were switching them all over.
Okay. And so what is the recommendation of the committee then?
I think it was
25A
actually
is
tied to
awaiting
the...
disposition. 25B does say complied with.
They were tied together, but because they were actually two separate orders going in, I had to separate them out, so that one just kind of stayed.
Okay, thank you.
So 25A and B, motion would be that they're complied with. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah.
All right, so
Second.
motion is to comply with. All those under discussion first, I guess.
Yeah, of course I left my notes in my office, but who cares? This last night, I should be able to remember, right? Okay, so we had, so the first one, Mr. President, is a communication from the Law Department. That was received. That was a legal opinion relative, and that was filed by Councilor Bacon, relative to the auction that took place at Locust. The second one had to do with the aforementioned, she said lot 136, but I had lot 137, but it doesn't matter. So at this point, I want to, the committee vote that these orders were complied with, so that's the motion. We had them, we had is it Miss Levine?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sorry about that. Miss Levine before us May 21st. And she had a lot of documentation relative to the lots. And then last night we were hopeful to have the treasurer. The treasurer said she was not available to meet, but in her email she thought it had been taken care of subsequent to the auction. What I did, Mr. President, was read the quitclaim deed that was filed from the city of Holyoke to the purchasers at auction. Yes, they are, it's a public record. I'm not going to say the purchasers' names. And I believe they might be employed by the city of Holyoke, and they might be public officials. Although I don't have any evidence of that. I just have rhetoric on that, but it's probably true. During the meeting last night, Mr. President, I made it very clear that I am not, and the committee is not, giving any kind of a legal opinion based upon this. We don't do that. I read the four corners of the document. In particular, I read the, quote, protective restrictions, unquote, that are enumerated within this deed. Further, there's a couple other standard lines in here that concern property. What I heard from the advocate tonight, Ms. Levine, is that she wants this body to make a final determination that the lots are not buildable. That was not the order before us. And furthermore, that is not our role. to make that determination. I thought the facts we pointed out in the deed were salient. Namely, that there's a 2-year window in which the purchaser of the property have to construct the property. That 2-year window concludes, I believe, September 7th, 2016. 2018, right, strike that. September 7th, 2018. We left it there other than to say to them last night, if they want to engage their own legal counsel to advocate for this position relative to their issue with the abutters and possibly with the city of Holyoke, then they should contemplate that. There was a lot of evidence presented to us, but again, our role, as we've said many times, is not to serve it in an adjudicatory capacity. That's not what we do, and that furthermore was not the issue before us. So I just want, I mean, I don't want anybody to walk away mad or upset or feeling bad, but that's really not what City Council. That's really not what we do here. We don't have the legal capacity to make that determination. All we could do was really take what was before us, review it, hear from the abutters. I have to say, we didn't hear from the owners of the property. I never invited them. That wasn't brought before me, so they weren't in here. And besides, what was that going to prove anyhow? So I think that the four corners of this deed are very clear, Mr. President. I don't think it's really going to do any good for us to read them now, because we went over it in explicit detail last night. So that's the report. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I would just note that it was clarified that should the owners seek a building permit, that the building commissioner would be referring to the deed document in terms of any restrictions that do exist for the property. So we did clarify that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Lisi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, well, it is very concerning that someone's advertising the property in a way that may not be, I don't know if honest is the right way, but, you know, accurate is definitely concerning, but that's not a matter that I think is, you know, that is properly before the City Council. I think that, to echo the comments of Councilor Bartley and Bacon, that this body does not determine the buildability of the lot. That's something that the building commissioner would wind up doing, and I know that there's often realtors that are asking those questions in advance of purchase and sale because their purchasers, their clients are interested in these matters. I do think, however, that the neighbors raised some interesting questions about whether or not there has been a violation of the auction rules, and so I think that it may make sense to file an additional order just to see if the legal department can advise us on whether or not there's been a violation there, and or who takes care of that grievance if there is a violation. Is it the city via this body that has to reclaim the property if there's a violation, or what is that process? I think that we're a little bit in the dark about what that process would be like, and so I think the next thing to do in this situation would be simply asking the legal department for an opinion. I don't know if the legal department is available to render an opinion now. If so, I'd like to suspend the necessary rules.
I'll second that. To suspend the rules, allow the legal department to speak. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let's give them time to gather themselves.
Just very briefly, it's actually a question that arose not because of these particular individuals, but another individual bid on a property. We asked the outside counsel whether or not it would pose a conflict of interest. They stated that it would not, and actually under the tax title auction rules, because it needs to be publicly available for bidding, the outside counsel's opinion, Sedell and Sedell, was that you wouldn't be able to exclude people based on employment with the city.
Can you say that again? Just so the main thrust of what you're telling us is there's no role for the city to play in a violation, but moving forward, we can exclude city employees. Is that what I heard you say?
No. So we would not be able to exclude somebody simply based on their status as an employee of the city, but their conduct or activity. And again, I'm thinking about this with respect to another city employee who rehabs a house successfully. Great story. And there could be a conflict that arises in the course of their rehabilitation, but to bid on the property, we wouldn't be able to exclude somebody.
Sure, but I think that the legal question that I'm interested in is whether the city has a role in monitoring violations of the auction rules.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, given that it seems, I mean, at least according to the neighbors, that there have been violations, I'm trying to figure out what's the city's role in, like, do they bring a case against the city? Do we bring a case against the purchaser? Like, what? That's what I'm trying to get at here. And maybe it's not something that you're prepared for tonight, and I'll request the opinion, but that's really, I think, the next step.
We enforce our reverter rights, so if there is a violation, I mean, these were vacant lots that were sold, with the only condition being, the only statement that our outside counsel advised us to place on the terms and conditions of sale is that the topography of the parcel might affect development. Beyond that, in terms of what's represented as buildable or not, the only indication we would give is if the actual dimensions by the zoning ordinances would render it not buildable. Beyond that, the city does not make any representation or warranty about the property. Once it's sold, if there's a development plan that's approved for a structure and there's not compliance with that development plan, the city can exercise its reverter rights to reacquire the property. For a vacant lot, it's a little bit different because the reality is that these were approved for sale without a new construction plan, in part given that there wasn't any certainty about whether or not this would be a buildable lot with the drainage culvert, the gas line easements, and the issues that have been discussed. So it very much is left to the permitting process to have those issues addressed in that forum.
So essentially, there's no quote-unquote legal action to be taken until there's a more formal trigger. So we don't take an active role in inspecting whether or not what that property owner is doing is within or without the auction rules. In order to determine whether or not we're going to exercise a reverter clause, it would come further along in the process of permitting that would then trigger the reverter to be exercised.
I believe in this instance, that's right. There wasn't a development plan for this property. If there is a development plan, it's sold with the reverter restrictions, and that development plan is not complied with, then the city would be able to exercise its treasurer would be able to exercise its reverter rights.
And I'm just going to push one more time, and then I'll probably give it a rest because we do have other business to take of. So given that there was no development plan.
That's my recollection. That it was vacant lots.
And that seems like what we're hearing from the neighborhood as well. But given that there were alterations to the property that's caused problems for the neighborhood, you know, who determines that there has been a violation? I guess that's what we're coming down to. Like, who determines, and when and where is that determined?
I mean, ultimately, the treasurer has the authority to exercise their reverter rights. You know, if any city official was aware of violations, theoretically that could be communicated to the treasurer's office, and decisions about exercising reverter rights would then be made by the treasurer. Okay.
So just so I hear you loud and clear, the treasurer has the ability to exercise the reverter rights, and if there's any violations, the treasurer needs to be informed.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I'm all set, thank you. Okay. I hope that was helpful to everybody here.
So the motion, if there's no other discussion, the motion for 25A and B is that they're complied with.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 7 was taken out of order, so that is done.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to do 8 and 9 together.
8 and 9, suspend the rules, take up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Make a motion to refer both to the Committee on Finance. That's where most contracts end up because of the appropriations.
Motion is
just
take
as copies.
7 and 8, receive and refer to finance as copy items. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Just for clarification at home, 8 was a legal opinion regarding enforceability of contracts. 9 was a legal opinion regarding union contracts and ordinances. 10 is from the city solicitor, a letter regarding litigation against opioid manufacturers. Motion would be to receive and refer to
Public service.
public service. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 11 is from Bellamy Smith regarding, he's our auditor, regarding the fire contract, which Councilor McGarren pointed out the numbers and the impact per year. Motion is received, send a copy to finance.
So moved.
All those in favor? All those opposed? 12 is from the personnel director regarding the salary study. Motion
Ordinance,
be
please.
sent to ordinance, receive
Second.
for the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Um,
13
Be received.
is Board of Health. Motion is to receive. It's their April 5th, 2018 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President, can
Yes.
we take 14, 15, 16, and 17 as a suspend the rules, take them as a package, refer them to ordinance?
Motion to suspend the rules,
Add
take up
19 to
14,
that.
15, 16,
And
17,
19.
And 19.
and
please.
19 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is to receive and refer to ordinance.
Ordinance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're going to ordinance. Hold on. Let's make sure we put it in order.
Got a long cabinet, I think, yeah.
18
Up there.
is a
There is a drive-through.
petition for a special permit for a drive-through at 500 East Hampton Road.
DGR.
DGR,
Motion is
please.
referred to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Must have taken over from the long.
20 is a petition.
Ordinance. Yeah.
Weston Sacrament special permit sign replacement of 1945 Northampton Street.
Mr. President, I don't know. Is this ordinance?
For a sign replacement. Is it?
That was planning
Oh.
board action.
I think it's DGR.
It might be DGR.
So DGNR.
Oh, boy.
So non-conforming structure. Motion is to receive and refer to DGNR.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
All opposed?
we have a copy of the law department to explain that because that doesn't make sense.
So
It still doesn't make sense. And we've been getting this non-conforming stuff.
Do you want to get send them a copy?
Just a copy of the law
Yeah.
department to have a
So
ruling on
20
this because if
No,
this was a
I'll second
variance,
that.
it's not non-conforming.
So
I'll second
20
that.
is to receive, referred to DGNR with a copy to legal to get an opinion to DGNR.
Yes, please. I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Move. President's report. Oh, I have like 1,000 things. Just kidding. First, I did confirm with Kathy Anderson prior to her leaving us that on 7/26 at 8:30 a.m. we can do our first visit to businesses. We're trying to do AM, and if you guys want to move it to PMs, we can, or weekends. There'll be West Side finishing on 7/26, 8:30 a.m. They understand that not everyone can make it. They're just looking to see and let the counselors see what's going on. They're looking to expand their business. They're the first business that volunteered to, ask us to come in to get us see what's going on to businesses in Holyoke. So if you can make it,
What
you're
time is
welcome.
it again? 7:30?
8:30 a.m.
8:30 a.m.
They're saying about a half hour. Just give a tour, a little information. If you want to stay a little longer, that's up to you. But they understand that people have to work and they're trying to fit within schedules. So they're doing the best they can. They don't want you up at 6 a.m. and stuff. So this is the first one. There'll be more with Kathy's departure coming shortly. We'll stay on top of whoever else. But I know a lot of businesses have offered up inviting us in to see what goes on. If we have questions, see how we can help in any way or how they can help us in any way. So us being proactive and business friendly and just seeing what's going on in the city of Holyoke. Next is on 6, and he left, Nelson. I do believe it's 6/24 is the Nueva Esperanza. The gala, am I correct on the date? It's this Sunday. This Sunday. So this Sunday, 20th, is the Nueva Esperanza Gala. I think we did put an ad in, Joe.
Yes.
A half-page ad for the city council. There is a request also to go on that for a baseball. Joe, is that one for baseball?
Baseball is an annual one, and the merry-go-round.
Merry-go-round.
Anniversary.
So just kind of giving you guys the heads up on the Flower Fund and those asking for donations as well as ads, us as a full body sponsoring an ad. Finally, I would say that on 6/29, a member of this board is officially going to retire from the post office, not from here. And that is Councilor Tom, and I want to recognize him. It's 37 years with the post office. And just to,
Nicest mailman in town.
To piggyback on that, 23 years as a reservist. So thank you on the behalf of all of us for what you've done. We truly appreciate your work. And like I said, he's just the post office. He's staying with us. Just putting that
President, can we start our meetings at 6 o'clock now?
Mr. President?
If anyone else has anything that I may have forgotten, please jump in.
I was out in the hallway speaking with some constituents, so if you did go over this, I apologize. But June 30th, there's a ceremony up at Whiting Reservoir. It's in honor of celebrating Dan Rudy, and I have a hard time pronouncing his last name. It's a great name. It's a good guy. Mangeza. He was the coach for 53 years at Holyoke Catholic of track and cross country. Stu Limke did his due diligence. He got a great team of people together to do a lot of fundraising. They're putting a plaque up there. So on the behalf of the water commissioners, Parr and all those guys, and Conti and certainly Stu, who kind of spearheaded this. There's going to be a beautiful ceremony. Then after that, there's going to be a picnic at Holyoke Country Club. And they just wanted to make sure that all the city councilors and the mayor were invited. And I sent this to Ryan, and I'm not sure if anyone can read this little invitation. Ryan, we got to get you some word processing skills here.
Oh my God.
This is like 2 by 2.
Yeah, if you want to see it at home. So it's June 30th, noon to 3. I like how they put it, 3-ish.
3-ish, yeah.
So, well, actually the ceremony, just so we're clear, 10 a.m. is the ceremony at Whiting Reservoir, and then the picnic at Holyoke Country Club at noon to 3-ish. So, just so you know the dates and when they're going to do it. Okay?
Mr. President?
Councilor Roman.
I'm sorry I had to exit the room and discuss something with Councilor Roman. He'll be back shortly. I don't know if you announced this, but the one Holyoke, did you announce this for Sunday?
Yeah, that was next.
Oh,
but
okay.
no, go ahead.
No,
No,
go ahead.
you're on. Go.
All right. Well, it's my ward, so I'm excited.
Go. I'm not going to announce it. No, go ahead.
So one Holyoke, as you all remember, we were actually involved with that whole process of the Yankee Peddler separate structure. And so the day has come this Sunday, actually, for the house to be moved down Beach Street. So Beach Street will be closed as of like 3 a.m. They're going to close it as of like 3 a.m. or something like that. And they're going to start moving the house around 6. So they're recommending that if folks want to watch the process and have a little viewing party, they're recommending the parking of the senior center, which is in Ward 4. And there's going to be folks there from Kate's Kitchen that morning selling breakfast, and it's going to be a fundraiser. So make it an early morning and stop by. It'll be exciting to see the house rolling down Beach Street.
They do give a time frame as where it's going.
I know. It's like, is there a GPS on this flatbed thing? Because it's pretty specific. So, and again, thank you to One Holyoke for involving the community in this whole process.
Yep.
Can you
Thank you.
say again what time at the senior center?
They're basically recommending 6:30 at
Yeah,
the
'cause
senior
remember,
center.
They're shutting it down, so
Yeah.
you're gonna have to get down there relatively.
6:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Just on that note, the Board of Directors of the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round did take a formal vote and are giving Dobbin a day pass. Dobbin will be leaving the merry-go-round to lead the house down Beach Street. Dobbin is the, as most of you know, the horse that used to be at the Yankee Peddler, who is retired to the merry-go-round, and he will be out for a one-day pass. And if I could respectfully ask Councilor Valentine for a wake-up call.
Go on Facebook, Joe. You can figure it out now. I'll text you.
Anyone else? Nope. We got them all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilor Leahy. With that, we're on to reports of committees, if I'm doing it correctly. Yep. So with that, Ordinance Committee. 21A, Committee on Ordinances referred a petition for a zone change R2 to RM40 at Russell Terrace. It's recommended that the zone change application be approved, signed off by everyone. Motion would be to...
Motion to pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the petitioner came in and gave a very good presentation relative to this zone change. They met with members of the community. They received feedback. They actually modified their building plan based on the feedback so that there would be less noise emanating from the design to the abutters. And so the project received no negatives in terms of the public hearing, and it was found to be a very well thought out project and compatible with the neighborhood. It also received a full endorsement from the planning board following their public hearing and review, and was found to be a compatible bridge zone in the neighborhood. So it looks like a very positive situation for support from the entire committee to this board, recommending favorably.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. It's a really exciting project with the change in the zoning. There's really only an addition to 2 additional living quarters, houses, on between the 4 lots. Because they were designed to host two family houses on the 4 lots. So that was 8. We're going up to 10. And the design is really interesting because it's conserving energy by the way that the houses are placed adjacent to one another. The materials on the outside of the house as well as inside of the house seem very easy to maintain. So I think that it'll be a real positive and beautiful addition to the neighborhood for many years to come. So it's very nice to be able to vote in favor of these zone changes, and I'm excited about the project coming to fruition.
Anyone else? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I made a meeting about a month ago over in South Street, the pizza place, and talked to them, some of the residents, and saw the process. It was about an hour and a half or so meeting, and really taking into consideration what the neighborhoods thought about this project. And they were trying to decide what type of zone change they would go for. And I guess this is the one that works the best. And everything looked really good, professional, how they laid everything out. And I really like the idea of them having a few meetings with the neighbors to really take care of this issue. And it looks like it's going to be a great project, really, really willing to support this.
And Mr. President, do you mind just reading what passed? Because I think that what's on our agenda is not actually what passed out of committee. I thought it was RM20.
Says that
It's correct.
Zone change from from R2 to RM40, Russell Terrace and South Street parcels. Russell Terrace 111000072, 1110073,
It's right, Mr. President.
It's correct.
It is?
It's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
So the motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for it. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan, Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson-Burgos, Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy, LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Barely, and yes.
Oh,
If you said no, Joe, it wouldn't have
I know.
passed.
that would have killed it.
That would have killed
9
it.
yeas.
Is there a reason why we're missing
It's
people?
everybody.
Anderson-Burgos left sick.
Okay, so Councilor Burgos, he was sick coming in. He did call me prior to the meeting. He came in. He was a trooper, so he did go home. I know he wasn't feeling good. But everyone else is okay. We'll move on. 21B, C, and D. Want to take up as a package?
B, C, D in this package.
All in unison.
Yeah, I know, right? Should we sing?
Got work to do here. You almost missed the vote.
That was a squeaker.
You almost missed the zone change.
Oh, which one?
Mike's back.
Oh, he's back here. We're all set now.
So B is an issue. C and D are okay. All right. So I just got a clarification from Ryan. 21B has an issue in the sense that
It's not a city street.
yeah, so they can't. So the engineers
Like,
can't.
it's the same thing as Bolden Village.
Oh. Okay. So can we amend that to take up C and D as a package?
All right. So motion is to take up C and D as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? C is a handicap sign at 195 Suffolk Street. D, 21D is a handicap sign at 32 Clinton Ave. Committee has recommended that both be adopted.
Right. So receive and pass the first
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
These applications were reviewed by the Disabilities Commission. The site visit was made, and in both cases, they recommended that it be adopted.
No more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to
Motion to pass the second reading.
pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the handicap signs at those two locations.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
What's your vote to approve the signs at locations? 21B, would you like to refer back to committee?
I don't know what we can do with it in committee.
So,
What's the issue?
Pardon, Brenda? Deny it because it's not a city
all
street?
right, let's make a motion to suspend the rules, allow the city solicitor to speak on this.
So moved.
All those in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
21B is a handicap sign at 16 East Court. Guess we can't do it, or?
Right, so I talked to the engineer when I was trying to get measurements and such. It's not a city street, it's like it's almost like an alley, like between two sets of apartments kind of thing. So I think this one needs to be denied. We need to figure out a different spot for that handicap space to go on an actual street. I mean, I think they're still gonna have to get from wherever that is to the front door of their apartment, but the other thing that was told to me was that there is a handicap spot for those units and it's a first come first serve, but obviously if they want another one, we just need to find where to put that that's actually on a street.
What ward is this?
One.
It was
Hyman Terrace,
Okay.
East Court and West Court. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Leahy?
I was just going to ask if I could through the chair. So if I own property and if I don't want any trespassing, I could put a sign, or if I own a big enough property, I could put a slow, on my own property, a sign. If this isn't city property, can't the homeowner just put a no parking sign there?
I think this is an alleyway.
Yeah, it's not a travelable. It's
Right.
not
I
travelable.
do believe alleyways.
But the city owns it?
Where is it?
No, it's just like you don't put cars on it.
It's not a street.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tony's brought this up before. The assessor, in the sense of alleyways, we don't tax them.
Okay.
So actually, I'm gonna file that.
I was thinking it was an actual. Okay.
We're losing revenue there, so that's something where we need revenue. So, Councilor McGivern.
I think this, however it works out, is a housing authority issue. If you've been around with the new construction going over in Lyman Terrace, it appears, and I'll defer to the Ward 1 councilor, but it appears that some of these alleyways or egresses, which were always walkways, are being opened up for parking under the new construction. Now, I can only tell you what I see when on my other job I'm walking around. But it's I think regardless, it's not a city street. It's same thing as Bowdoin Village. You know, we can take care of Leary Drive, but the inner streets have to be taken care of by the housing authority. So if they allow parking, they can put up their own handicap sign, but the city could enforce it, but the city can't put it up by ordinance.
Right. So motion would be to
Maybe refer it to the housing authority.
so. Well, the order here is that it be adopted.
Property.
So we can just vote to deny.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I'll offer a motion to deny based on the fact that 16 East Court is not a city street.
So the motion would be that that we deny the request for 16 East Court. That was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Brenda, do you need a roll call for that or no? Okay. Just making sure. Okay.
What I'm saying is,
21E. Community ordinance was referred. An order establishing, authorizing all existing revolving funds in accordance with Master General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half. Modernizing Act requiring that effective in fiscal year 2000, all revolving funds are to be authorized by an ordinance rather than an annual legislative body vote. Motion is that we recommend to adopt.
To receive and adopt and pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as we all know, usually periodically throughout the year, we would get orders through to renew the revolving funds and set the limits on them. But with the Modernization Act, it's now required to have the funds listed in ordinance, and then each year we simply will vote on the limits of the funds. So we reviewed the established funds in committee. We kept it in committee because we had to add the new recycling revolving fund that wasn't previously listed. I did know tonight in looking at the order that the new revolving fund for the grant that we just approved at our last city council meeting is not listed, and I don't know if it's just simply because the account isn't set up yet or what the status is on that. Maybe Crystal or Paul can speak to that, I don't know. But we're talking about the revolving funds and that the recycling fund got added to the list to create our new ordinance, but last meeting we had also created a revolving fund for a grant that we accepted, and it did not come on the paperwork yet, so we don't know if it's something that will be coming later that we will then have to amend the ordinance, or if for some reason a grant revolving fund would be different.
Motion is to allow legal to address the question on the program.
So moved.
All
Second.
those in favor? All
Aye.
those opposed?
So you're saying the legal form doesn't have the bond, or not the bond, the grant that was
I
just...
didn't see it unless our
It may have just
administrative
been
assistant sees it. I saw the recycling one. I didn't see the new grant revolving fund, and I thought maybe there was a reason because it was brand new and maybe it wasn't set up yet. But
Recycling
Bellamy
program.
was going to give you the language on that.
So I got the
building.
I got the recycling fund one from him. I didn't get the one on the grant, but I can amend that. I can amend the legal form if that's
okay.
Should have been on there.
So I would offer an amendment to the legal form to include the revolving fund for the grant that we approved at the last meeting. Is there the name that I can?
I think you need the in legal form to.
Right, so that Crystal can amend the legal form.
You want to just table it, and then that way they can put
Table
the
it
proper legal form in.
proper
That way you're
legal
voting
form?
on the correct language, not.
Okay.
Fine.
I just noticed that it wasn't there when I looked.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you. We did have in the Finance Committee a talk with Mike McManus, and that fund, he says, is established, and he is starting to use it. It's a great fund because it's capped at $15,000, and it's for the big recycling bins to get everybody one as soon as we get enough money accumulated. But if I remember talking to the auditor, we're adopting this in favor of Mass General laws if we table it, but the auditor believes we have to do this before June 30th. So we'd have to either table it and get it done at one of our special meetings, or ask the city solicitor to initial off this evening.
Here's the issue. Could we pass this and then amend it later?
He's leaving?
Because of the June, and add it in.
Well, that's what my first thought was.
I don't get it then.
I can only, I'm just,
No, I mean, pass this and amend it in August. Would that be sufficient, be compliant with the June 30th deadline?
That I don't know. That was not asked, but Mike did say he was using it and he did start it.
I mean, I've seen you guys amend it on the floor, and I've submitted amended legal form after the fact. I think that's probably what you would do here.
That's why I was offering the amendment and just wanting to state the proper name of the fund.
What is the proper name of the fund? See, that's one of the problems. How about we take a vote to approve it? Because we all understand what we have to do.
And we understand what the grant is. Right. And the recycling one is all set, Joe. This is the new grant.
Right, everything's here
but the last council meeting. So I think we can depend on Crystal to get the language to add the grant revolving fund.
Okay.
And consider that an amendment on the floor that I'm offering now to make the listing complete.
All right, so the motion is to pass the first reading, and now you want to amend it to include the
revolving fund for the grant approved at the last city council meeting.
Do we have the name for that at all?
I'm sorry? That sounds familiar.
So the MassWorks grant. All right, just so we have something on the record.
I was looking for my last agenda.
All right, so on the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right.
So
motion
to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to adopt the new revolving fund ordinance as amended with the grant that was missed.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Ordinance.
Item number 21E.
Come on.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Brenda?
Unanimous vote. Oh, yeah, sorry, Dan. Dan?
Yes.
Bresnan?
Yeah.
And Dan Bresnahan is here. All right, with your vote, you approve the ordinance. Is there a motion?
Motion to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading for 21F.
21F.
Second.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading. Committee on ordinance was referred in order that an ordinance be created, amend to address the replacement of memorials, dedications, naming rights in the city of Holyoke. Recommend that the order be adopted as amended. Everyone sign off on the jacket.
Yes, the committee as a whole is recommending this modification. We took it up last fall and we held it in committee for a number of meetings looking to add the banner project, which is a wonderful project being run through the Veterans Office. So we wanted to do the language as complete a fashion as we could. So we did add that language. Subsequent to our meeting, it was brought to my attention that one small part of the language was inadvertently deleted in the multiple renditions. So I understand there's an amendment to be offered.
Yeah, we neglected to include a city council approval, so I just want to make an amendment to include a line that the city council approval is needed for the renaming of It was the streets and...
Streets and ways and buildings.
And buildings.
That was in a previous edition and then not in the final
So
one.
it's not in this now?
It is now.
Correct.
So
we want
needs
to add
to
that.
be added. And I'll
Motion
second
is
that.
to amend, it was seconded to add city council approval for all
Naming rights.
naming rights. On the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So as amended, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion is
reading.
passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the order as amended.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the order as amended.
So
Mr.
President,
President, can I take, make a motion to take item number 22C off the table?
second.
Motion is to take up 22C off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 22C, we took up earlier, is from free
get the
cash,
wins.
$142,052.84 for the firefighters contract. Motion would be to receive, adopt, and pass the second reading, because we already did the first reading, correct?
Yeah, we
Second reading, correct.
Under discussion, or? No? So motion is to pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $142,052.84 for the firefighters contract.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
since it's up again, I'd just like to add my voice to the discussion. Really briefly, I think that I've been on the council for nearly 11 years now, and this is the first time that I'm going to be voting against, and I put in quotation marks against, something that the fire department would like. And I'm putting that into quotation marks because I really would like to see the fire department have a contract, but I do think that it needs to be renegotiated. And so I think that I'd like to see it go back to the drawing board and something new come out. And I hope to be able to vote for a new contract in a few months. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Roman.
Yes, a few things, Mr. President. One is I'm going to be changing my vote this round to no, based off of the feedback I heard from my colleagues, 1 and 2. I just want to state for the record, I saw my colleague, Councilor LeBron Martinez, was going to go home for the evening, and then she got cornered outside, and now here she is again. She told me she had to go home for the evening. So I just don't think it's right that we're pressuring on a night when folks want to go home or folks have other stuff to do. I just need to call that out. I don't like that. It just makes me feel uneasy, and I just wanted to call that out. She said, good night, I'm going home, I have to leave. And all of a sudden she's back here, and then a group of men come in after her. I don't know if they told her anything, but it just doesn't sit right with me, so I don't think that's right. I think, listen, we got to give each counselor their fair chance. If they got to go home, they have to go home. We can't stop that, but the numbers didn't exist if she would have gone home. With Councilor Anderson-Burgos gone. So I don't like that. I agree with my colleagues, and I've heard from a bunch of people here. Like I said, I stand in support of the fire department, but if this is going to help us reopen the contract and negotiate, I think we have to let that happen. So I'm going to vote no this time. Thank you.
Anyone else? So motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer of free cash for the contract.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
No.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
7 yeas, 5 nays.
With your vote, you denied the contract or the appropriation for the contract.
Back to the drawing board.
21G. Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that Article 1, Section 42-15, license for manufacturing, storage, and uses of petroleum products. Many of these license fees are outdated. Have considered the same, recommend that be adopted as amended. And then there's the
Motion to
fees.
receive, adopt, and pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading. Our discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the companion order to the one that we passed last City Council meeting, bringing things up to date that hadn't been updated in, I guess, a couple of decades. Councilor Sullivan reviewed in the committee. We went through each item, and you have each of you on your desk the recommended changes in the fees.
Yep.
And so the recommendation is to adopt these and amend our ordinance. And I believe it was the whole committee recommending
everyone
adoption.
Yep. Everyone signed off. Anyone else? So motion is to receive and adopt, and we're passing
the first reading.
Passing the first reading. I just want to make sure we're on it second. Getting lost here. All right, so pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to pass.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Pass the second reading. Who was seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new fees.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez? Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you have approved the new fees as amended. 21H, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the City Council consider adopting Mass State necessary to reduce speed limits to 25 on residential roads, or that be adopted.
Motion to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, and pass first reading. Our discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We took this up last year in Ordinance Committee and brought it to Council with a recommendation of doing it on a street-by-street basis. Some discussion arose over that, and it was sent back to committee. So we relocated it a little bit later than we would normally have and took it up again in ordinance. Since then, we had had feedback from our superintendent, Mike McManus, and he really recommended that we do it on a citywide basis and put it into the hands, his recommendation. And I believe the whole committee is encouraging the adoption of this.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I really appreciate the order. This came out of the Mass Municipal Reform Bill that Governor Baker put into law, I think in 2016. Boston's adopted it, Springfield's adopted it. I think there's a handful of other communities, but Holyoke would certainly be in the top 15 statewide. If there's one complaint I get over more than any other, it's traffic related. I mean, there's a lot of complaints, but and for a good reason. But traffic, speeding, and I think this will go a long way to having uniformity. Also, the importance of this, as Ms. McMahon has pointed out to the committee, I believe, this is actually a money saver, because if we start having signs, scattered throughout the city, he said, Councilor, we're going to be spending a lot of money on signage and person power to put up the signs and all the rest of that, as opposed to having a uniform. And the third thing is, Councilor Bacon pointed out, we're putting this in the hands of the professionals, not the politicians who are making the calls on what are the right speed limits for the thoroughfare, for the public way in question. So I'm really behind it, and I really appreciate this order being before us.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. As the maker of the order, I'm happy that people are voting in favor of it this time. Certainly the same arguments that I had made last time, and certainly the same recommendation that our superintendent had last time as well. And I'd like to take credit for it, but it wasn't my idea. It was this person over in the corner here who came up with the idea that I just put forward. And I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm glad that it's going forward. If I didn't vote, no?
Oh, you're for it.
You're for it.
All right, Councilor Leahy. Councilor Leahy has the
Sorry,
floor,
he's
please.
just making some scenes over here. I'm not sure what he's doing, but I'm just happy that this is going forward on a citywide basis.
I do with Brez.
All right, order, please.
It's all
order.
your fault.
Come on. Councilor Leahy has the
going on
floor,
here?
please. Thank you. All right. There's no other discussion. We are on first reading. Councilor Bacon?
Yes, motion to pass the
Motion
first
to pass
reading.
first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new speed limit.
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
It's close. With your vote, you approved it.
Mr. President, before we move on the agenda, can I make a comment? Because it's really bothering me.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Valentine.
Councilor
says
Tallman knows where I'm going.
I think so.
We're right here, Pete. We're right here.
Yeah.
I need to support the statement that Councilor Roman made because I'm in a seat where I can see everything that happens in the chambers, in the hallway, down the stairs. I have this point of view right here. And I just need to say for the record that the sequence of events that has transpired here regarding the Holyoke Fire Department contract since public comment, which is, and I appreciate the remarks that you made, regarding the tone, in my opinion, still I stand by my words of the threatening approach of votes, of shame on you, of all the examples that you very well cited, followed by one of our colleagues who's been here, she's in her 4th term, who, for the most part, is present, is here, is not late, doesn't miss meetings. She had to leave. No one should have to question that. No one in these chambers, no one over there. And I saw from here that she got her purse, she walked out, and there were at least 5 members of the Holyoke Fire Department in that hallway. And when she started to go down those stairs, I saw someone who spoke at public comment go like this, like give an order of go after her. And I saw firefighters and members of the Holyoke Fire Department that spoke at public comment and that didn't literally race after one of our colleagues down those stairs and then see her return with her purse, sit down, and some of them sit back here while we voted. That is completely uncalled for. That is bullying. I don't care what anybody wants to call it in this chamber. That is bullying. If any of us get chased to our vehicle by any city employee or any constituent, that's harassment and that's bullying. And I will not stand for that. I have the floor. So, I want to say it on the record because I'm sure it didn't make it on the broadcast because of the angles of the camera. And if anybody has questions about what I witnessed, I am happy to speak right to whoever needs to speak directly to me about what I witnessed. It was disturbing, it was unethical, and it was unprofessional. And I didn't change my vote, but I was this close just because of the unprofessional behavior that I witnessed regarding one of my colleagues being harassed. So I apologize that afterwards I stood up and I looked out that window to make sure she was not being harassed again. And I saw her get in her car and be able to leave. And I'm upset. I'm emotional about this right now because I do not in any way support that anyone gets bullied or harassed, especially when I'm talking about one of my colleagues who's a female on this body and who was just chased down a set of stairs by a bunch of men. I will not stand by and let that fly. So I needed to say that on the record. Thank you for the time.
Councilor Bresnahan.
The passion is intense, and I appreciate it. I don't recall the passion when Jen Shatnoff was being harassed in this chambers. Nobody stood up for that, and probably was being harassed by someone's associates, someone's friends that we sit amongst us. But it's okay when it's your colleague, when it's your friend that's being harassed. But it's not okay This is the whole diversity thing that we talk about. When it's your friend and your people, it's okay. We can't allow that. But when Jen Shatnoff, who had to resign due to the harassment that she was getting from someone that everybody knows who was associating with, there was no passionate speech against that, was there? No, she had to leave in midterm, right? Nobody said nothing about that. But now we're gonna grandstand about what happened with Gladys. I mean, what happened to Jen? Remember? Does anybody remember? She resigned. She couldn't take it. The pressure was so strong. She could not take this office anymore, so she had to resign. And nobody said a damn thing about it.
Can I respond to that, please?
Point of order.
I think we're going out of order, and I'm gonna stop it simply because, look, it's hard. Budgets are tight, and I said it when I first stood up here the first day you guys allowed me to come up here. Emotions get high. We have to take a step back sometimes, and then move forward on city business. I know everyone wants to go back and forth on that. I think we're out of order. In essence, it is almost 10 o'clock. And we're just getting to finance. I think sides have been said. It's time to move forward on that. But I will remain with what I said in the very beginning of January. We have to take a step back. I know we want to come out. I know we want to fight. Let's focus on what really has to be done. No one wants to bully. No one wants to, pick sides. But we have to do the job for the city, which is putting aside our personal differences and moving forward. The tone has to change. It was getting better. I know with the finances and everything, it's getting a little heated again. Take a step back. We have a meeting tomorrow. We have a meeting the next day. We have a meeting Monday, Tuesday, potentially Wednesday next week. It is a lot in a short period of time. We're tired. I get it. Let's move on, please, okay? We got to show respect to each other as well as the community showing respect back to this board. And that's why I said what I said in the beginning. We have always supported the firefighters. We've always supported the police. We've always supported every department around here. We do the best we can with the limited funds. Our fight is with the state in order to get more funds in here because this city does a lot more than other communities. That's where the fight is. Councilor Bartley.
And I don't want to go, or just want a quick announcement. Mr. President, the DGR committee is going to have the state delegation here Monday night pursuant to your order. I want you to know that I confirmed that with the head of the Teachers Association. He'll be present as well, and we'll bring him inside the rail. Dr. Reich will be here, and the administrative assistant sent an invite to the mayor, and we haven't heard back on that one yet. So, but Dr. Reich confirmed. Okay,
yeah, that's a change in the formula. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's it.
With that, we'll move on to 22B, which is finance. B, Committee on Finance referred an application for Mr. Farah Barhamand, renewal license for taxi cab number 65 9 27 29 58. Motion would be to receive, adopt.
Pass the first.
This is for approval. I think it's just a motion to receive, adopt. Councilor McGivern.
I have no report, Mr. President. This was not in the Finance Committee agenda the last two meetings. I just learned 2 minutes ago this is I believe, a prior Finance Committee meeting, and I don't know where it's been.
I took this up and passed it. So it's just it's a typo that was already passed.
No, I understand, but my memory this time of year is mush. I believe we did meet with them. I believe you were present. I believe we said subject pending to inspection by the police department, but I defer to you because your experience with taxi cab drivers in recent years is more than mine.
I thought we approved this a couple, maybe last
week. That didn't come out too right, did it?
I agree with you, Councilor McGee.
Taxi,
This looks like a duplication, I think.
Yeah, so motion.
So it's a typo?
Yeah.
complied with?
Motions that's complied with.
Well, it's already been complied with, so I make a motion to give it leave withdraw. Because we've already done it.
I have no clue.
Well, you want to make sure that we want to table it? Then we just make sure?
No, I'm almost, it was approved, but I think it's just a typo, Dave, in the sense it was added on by accident.
So leave to withdraw then. I second Councilor Leahy's motion.
Motion is to give leave to withdraw because it's already been acted on. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22D was 22D. We didn't do it yet. Correct?
Yeah, we did.
This is the one that addresses your issue.
Right, the
I'm saying
42.
The one for 20,000 was supposed to go away. You were against that. We wanted to go for the full 42.5.
We're going for it all.
I know,
the
but we're
20
just
and the 42. We're getting it all.
But there wasn't
62.
62.
Make a motion to receive and pass first reading for discussion.
Motion is to receive, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. This is a request for tree climber transfer of the appropriation into the contract forestry. This is the second order that we talked about earlier when the order that was tabled earlier this month was defeated tonight. This is for $42,500. It's within the budget of the forestry department under the DPW. The tree climber has not been a position that is yet to be filled. The DPW superintendent, with the approval of the mayor, is asking that he use that money to do some work on that list of trees, which is getting up to, I think, about 3 to 4 pages, of trees that we've referred that need to be taken down or attended to. It's not going to solve the entire problem, but it will help out in a number of ways of getting the issue of trees down. Mr. McManus was before the committee last week, and he did tell the committee a rough approximate idea. I think it was in 60-65 range that could be taken care of with this money, with depending on the trees, the size of the trees, and the conditions when they get to them.
All right, and just to go to Councilor Sullivan's, I guess, his overall question, and Joe, maybe you have it. We took up the 20,000 that was approved. That was from line item 12941-51104, 20,000 tree climber. The same one before us, the same line item, is now 42,500. So the question would be was there approved 62,500 or is it 42,500, which then we'd have to reconsider the 20, deny it, to then approve the full amount of 42.5.
That was not, I'll be honest, that was not discussed at the, I don't know the answer, that was not discussed at the Finance Committee last Monday.
Councilor Sullivan,
that I remember.
The budget book, what does it say?
I can't find the right page.
Forestry, Parks.
Figure that out.
There's an index.
Parks Department.
I'm looking on the index.
Table of contents.
Councilor Roman.
Would be the Parks.
Yes, Mr. President. With regards to this or any other, I just have to say how disappointed I am in this whole tree thing. I shared a story with one constituent last week, and I'm just going to be voting no on all the rest of the financial transfers. I think if we're denying one, we're denying all. And I just have to say, for the record, I don't think that this is going to change anything. We put trees on lists, and they just live there for forever, like my colleague said. We're never filling the positions. So I look forward for the next budget to either cut it and just put it in contract services or not. But I'm just completely, I don't know, I'm struggling to sit here and approve all these financial transfers when we just had a whole debate about other ones that aren't going to go through, aren't going to happen. We're waiting on free cash. It's just a struggle for me to vote yes on the rest of the financial transfer. That's all due respect to the committee and all the fine work you've all done. And then lastly, I just have to say, because it's really a struggle to just continue to sit here, Mr. President. I respect you with all due respect to the conversation we just heard. I just went to my colleague during the break, and I applauded her, and I stood with her, and I'll stand with you again, Councilor Bacon. I don't applaud anyone attacking you. And I have to also call you out for standing up for Jen. You were one of the few voices who did speak out afterwards. So I disagree with any colleague who said nobody spoke out, because you did. Likewise with my other female colleagues, when they were attacked for other things, nobody spoke up for them. You spoke up for yourself, and the community showed up. I can't sit here in good conscience, Mr. President, and say, listen, I stand up stand up for everyone, and I do. I went to Linda during the break. I didn't know anyone was referring to her. I thought they were talking about me, and I told her that. I said, listen, I thought they were coming for me, and I have to stand and apologize to you, and I'll say that publicly, because I always stand with you, because you are one of the most fair, individuals with me on the body. I used to be your seating buddy. We rearranged it. I'm over here now, and I agree with you on 99% of the budgetary and financial issues, because I think you're on the right course, and I know that's to the chagrin of many in this body, but I do applaud you on that. And I just have to say, Mr. President, what we witnessed here with Councilor Valentine was, again, grandstanding and showboating, and I agree with you, but we're talking about what happened to our colleague right here for a financial transfer. And all we're trying to do is say, listen, exactly that. I was the one, I did change my vote. Because for me as a male, that was bullying. That's machismo. She walked out. She looked me in the eye and said, good night, I have to go home. And then she was chased out. She's calling out the truth. And if we as a body, yes, we have to serve the laws and the finances, but we also have to call it what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And you did that tonight, Mr. President. And I didn't appreciate that our colleague was treated that way. I didn't appreciate that our other colleague was treated that way. And right now in this moment, I don't appreciate that my third colleague is being shut down for speaking her truth. And if we as a body, and yes, we get into this rhetoric debate all the time around resolutions and this and that, if we can't say how we feel, I really can't focus and sit here to say, hey, I'm going to vote for a tree transfer that we're only 2 weeks away. I haven't seen any trees being cut down. We've submitted 5 requests for tree cut downs. I haven't seen the mayor jump to send a tree climber, and then they walk by, they drive by. This is BS, Mr. President. It's the shuffleboard game. So when the tree forester position's up, and yeah, my colleagues are right, we have to cut positions, right? And it's not politics, it's the truth. $2.5 million is the truth. And yes, I was one of those people. I do vote for cuts. I like to vote for cuts because we're not living within our means. But I think it's not right also that if we as a body, and I applaud my colleague for always speaking her truth and speaking out. If it's sitting wrong with you, like I'm sitting here just thinking like, damn, that's it? The conversation's over, we're shutting it down? What if other colleagues want to speak their truth? But that's we have to create also a space and a venue for that, Mr. President. So I'm going to vote no on this. And I know I went a little bit off on the tangent, but I did need to recognize those 2 female colleagues because I felt like we just shut them down tonight. And I always, have my colleagues back, and I thank everyone for speaking up and the truth. And it's not about personalities, it's not about rhetoric. But come on now, we're trying to build together, yes, but at the same time we have to call out what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. So with that, I'm going to vote no. And I really don't know if like in my spirit I could sit in this space. I'm like really just upset by the whole situation that happened, but thank you.
Understandable. And one, no one shut down anyone. I'll be clear on that. My issue is I don't want to see any more infighting between us as to the actions that took place. And that's where I saw the conversation going. One counselor did make a procedural call in the sense of where it was going. So I made a ruling in the sense that I thought it was going outside that scope. I'd never shut down a counselor. I've told you that from day one. But my issue was to kind of guide the meeting back on track to deal with these issues. When it comes to the trees, we all have trees around here. I had a tree in my ward fall in a car. 7 a.m. People that couldn't get down the street to go to work because there was a tree laying across the street on top of a car. They had to actually bring up a crane to move the tree. Not move it with people, a crane. So they're dangerous, they're unsafe, of which we have tried this procedure, which is to try and get a clean tree climber. No one applied. It's been all year they've posted this thing. No one is applying for the amount offered. It's money sitting in the account, of which they came back and said, we'll only take 20. That's why I fought it. I said there's 42 in the account. Thank you for correcting me, Councilor Sullivan. Take it all, because you're not going to find anyone right now, and start addressing the safety issue of bad trees falling down. Everyone has one in your ward. You have trees with ants in them. It's just a moment of time that it's not falling on a car, it's falling on someone. There's 68 bad trees on a list, confirmed. There's probably more. So if there's 42,000 in an account, it's not free cash yet. Yes, we could deny it, and it rolls over to free cash next year. We can use it then. This is money within a line item to then be used to address some of the problem. So if you thought I shut someone down, I will say, I do apologize. That is never my intention. There was a procedural call. I acted on it to then get us all back on focus, which is the rest of the agenda.
Mr. President.
Councilor McGivern and then Councilor Valentine.
Just if I could finish the report. The 42,500 is correct. That would be the full amount that could be transferred at this point in time. The services that would be provided immediately would be 5 weeks of services at an hourly rate with an estimated 40 trees coming down, depending on size, shape, and condition of which trees are addressed. The DPW superintendent did address the question of an issue with a guardrail and with the crew that was around the guardrail, and that the tree had fallen and damaged the guardrail. The truth was that guardrail was damaged prior to the tree falling, and they did address it with the DPW appropriately. The Finance Committee is making a simple but important recommendation. We hear from our constituents day in and day out about trees. There's only two ways to address a tree in the city: is if it's on private property, the owner addresses it. If it's on city property, not only do we address it, but we're responsible for it. We can let it stand there and fall on a car, let it fall on a guardrail. Same thing we do with the Essex House. Let it stand there and fall in the road. Let's do something that puts some people to work and addresses the problem in the city. It's a simple vote. It's in the budget. It's $42,500. Cut the baloney. That's bullshit. Let's do it.
All right. Counselor Valentin, let's go.
So, talking about decorum and such, with all due respect, I need to say that when I made a statement that was pretty clear regarding what I observed and others here observed as well, and the response from a colleague is to go back to something that is completely irrelevant. It's been brought up 10,000 times before, which every time I've said, who stood up here when Lisi and I got letters from the police union saying to step down? Rarely anybody. But again, let's not talk about who stands up and who doesn't, because it would be a rhetorical question at this point. However, what I do perceive is that when there are moments that are out of order, they are not always being confronted. And so when someone is allowed to go on a rant and they are not redirected, when there's personal accusations going on about associates and who did this and who did that, I believe, based on Robert's rules, that calls for an out of order moment. And so if that doesn't happen, and as a follow-up to that, the person who's being attacked is not allowed the time and space to make a statement, then unfortunately that is very easily perceived as shutting down. So I think that that's the narrative that Councillor Roman was referring to. We can sit here and talk about trees. We can sit here and talk about financial transfers and orders and streets and potholes and anything we want. But the reality is that sooner or later, we really need to take a look at the decorum in these chambers, because I, for one, am sick and tired of the snickering, of the body language, of the irresponsible, inappropriate, unprofessional behavior from several folks in these chambers, and how there are no consequences. So I will continue to do what I always try to do, which is call things out, bring us back to why we're supposed to be here. Because for me, this work is about my constituents. Those are the people I'm here for. They're the ones who call and text and email and all of that. And there can be many conversations here that we can have or not have, but at the end of the day, this is about us representing the city of Holyoke and the residents of this city. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be at least respectful. I'm done with bullying. I'm done with disrespect. I'm done with snickering. I'm done with rolling of the eyes. I'm done with being called, what's the latest? There's just so many of them I have. That's what they're called, receipts. Receipts means when you keep a list of how people are being inappropriate. And I got plenty of those. So it's time. It's time to bring them all forward, because I'm done having patience. I'm done waiting for people to change. And I'm done with people in those seats right there being disrespected over and over again, and some of us in here too. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, Councilor, thank you. And thank you. Once again, as I said to Councilor Roman, and I'll say to you, I wasn't trying to shut you down. I saw a issue that was brewing, and we're trying to not have a, I don't want to call it a fight, but a large disagreement. So if you felt like I was shutting you down, like I said, that was never the intention. I was trying to bring back the group to focus on what we're doing. I think we've known all each other in this room for a long time. Our job does get stressful. We're trying to work for our constituents and make things right. So for us, once again, I'd like to just take a step back, focus on that issue. For everyone here, it's been a long night already. We're almost done. And like I said, no one's going to come into the chamber and do the things that you did point out, and I'm glad you did point them out. But I didn't want to go down a road that we shouldn't be going. That's all. So with that, we do have an issue in the sense of the tree climber. Hold on one second, Councilor Bacon.
Sure.
We did approve the $20,000. It is the same line item. The line item only does have $42,500. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, motion to reconsider our action on number 3.
Second.
We have to go to number 3, reconsider our action on the $20,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to deny the request of $20,000.
Lay it on the table.
Lay it on the table?
Second.
All right.
Enacted on $42,500. I'd like to see what happens with that first.
Okay, so motion is to lay on the table the $20,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to take up 22D and pass the first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would then be to pass the second reading to transfer from tree climber to contract forester, or forestry. Is there a second?
Second.
Do you have a question, Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, just one last, hopefully, comment on this. Besides the 40 trees on the list, I went around and made my own list. I can add 40 to that, including trees outside of Kelly School, all right? Tree right here in front of City Hall, trees on the corner of Sargent and Maple Street, all right? And to not take action on this tonight is to leave dead trees in front of Rowan Park where kids were playing. We damn well better vote on this because you're leaving, you know, what we call in the hiking world, dead men standing. All right.
All right. So motion is to pass the second reading. If clerk can call the roll, you're voting yes for the transfer. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Oh. Go ahead.
You get to vote twice.
You did this.
You did that.
Sullivan.
I said Sullivan.
Did you say Sullivan? Okay. You didn't vote.
You said Tallman twice.
I thought you said
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Leahy?
Yes, yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
With your vote, you approve the transfer for $42,500. Next would be to take from the table item
Second.
3. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion would be to
Motion to deny.
motion to deny the request. It's the second. So the first would be the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to deny the request on the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. You're voting yes to deny the $20,000.
Roman?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
No.
Bartley?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
No.
You guys just checking my counting skills. 7 yeas, 3 nays. No.
That one was tabled, right?
It was.
So the second reading, so you need a 7. So it's denied. All right, so now we're on to 22.
Wait a minute. I thought we were just voting on reconsideration.
No, that was
No.
we voted on reconsideration.
It was tabled.
It was already tabled?
It was already tabled and removed from table.
Right, there's no money.
We just passed it.
No, we passed the deny.
Second reading, 7 votes passes it.
Correct.
To deny. Yeah.
To
Deny it.
Correct.
Right.
Oh,
It's
okay.
We
denied.
already took all the money out.
All right, on the next motion.
All right, 22E, we'll move on now. Committee on Finance to refer to hereby appropriate $5,150.59 from patrolman to injured on duty.
Make a motion to pass the first reading.
Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. This went to Committee on Finance for the sole reason that it was a late filed at our last City Council meeting. The Committee on Finance is recommending it once again that we take care of the transferring of money from the salary account to the injured on duty account to reflect the person being paid during a particular time of this pay period was injured on duty or considered possibly injured on duty.
We only have 8, so we won't have a quorum to pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a quorum.
Finish the meeting.
Still here.
So motion to table 22E would be the recommendation.
Second.
Can we do that?
Motion to table. It's all we can do.
No, we can't. We don't have a quorum to do so.
We have a quorum.
How do we have a quorum?
2,
Ghosty
3,
coming back?
4, 5, well, right, but we have 7 for a quorum we can table.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Motion is to table 22E. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion would be to table 22F.
So moved.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 22G, Committee on Finance was referred in order that the assessor come in to explain their assessment process. Recommended being complied with.
Motion to receive and adopt.
Motion to receive, adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Tony and Debbie both came in, gave a lengthy report on detailed on their job, how abatements work, how they assess property, how it's certified by the state, how it's market values, noting market values are usually a good year or sometimes a little bit longer, year and a half. Currently, the market values being used are 2016. They talked about the importance of fairness when it comes to abatements. They explained how the abatement works, and I think the committee and the maker of the order was satisfied with their report and able to bring some new light to any constituents who question this. We did note that we can't get in the middle of an abatement because we do appoint the assessors to their positions, and we can't intervene, avoiding any conflict of interest on appraisals or abatements that are voted on by the assessors. But we just asked that the order was complied with.
Anyone else? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just want to state it was very refreshing to hear that from the assessors and to try to get a better understanding of what goes on in a very thorough meeting with the 2 assessors here. And I'm glad Josie brought that up to really bring out in front of us what actually the job they do on a daily basis and how it can affect things. It affects the tax dollars coming in to the city in the future, and it does sound like some of the values will be going up in the coming years. So just a very good meeting with them, and very colleague, Mr. Chairman, really brought up some really good points on what they had said. So,
anyone else? Motion that the order has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 22H is done. I is done. Public Safety, Public Service Committee, DG&R Committee. We did 25A and B. We're on to 25C. Committee on Redevelopment, who was referred in order that in accordance to Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, the Holyoke Holyoke Code of Ordinance Procurement declare parcel 55 Hamilton Street as surplus property.
Yeah, Mr. President, we got to table this.
Motion is to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 25D. Communication from Alicia Zoller.
Motion to receive. I'm not sure why we put this. Just a motion.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There was no charter and rules. There was no joint committee motions and orders. Oh, okay. 22B, motion to reconsider. We gave it to deny. There might be an issue that...
So leave to a draw, right? That was a vote.
Leave to a draw. So I think what they're saying is this might be new taxis instead of the ones that...
I make a motion to give reconsideration.
Second.
Motion to give reconsideration. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion would be to table just to confirm.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good catch, Ryan.
28, City Council give a proclamation to Kathy Anderson for her years of service to the City of Holyoke and the
I'd be
Holyoke
added on to
Chamber.
that.
I'd be added on too.
All of us, please.
All of us.
All of us present?
All 7.
That would change the names.
And those are present. So proclamation, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 29 is that the assessor come before the City Council regarding $250,000 tax abatement for Mount Del Rosa Church. I do believe he brought that up in the meeting, so it's complied with.
It's complied with.
Yeah.
Comply with.
So 29 is complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 30. That the City Council invite in the newly hired web company to address the problems the city is having with the system, timeline for fixing, etc. Motion will be received and referred to
Public service.
Public Service. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Just kidding. Yeah.
We got to give you some work, Jim.
31, we're at the treasurer auditor provide a list of what union and non-union employee positions have gotten raises over the past 5 years, as well as a list of all positions not having a raise.
Steve's in the finance?
Receive and refer to
Ordinance.
ordinance.
Oh,
Go to
okay.
ordinance.
Fair enough.
All those in favor?
A copy to the treasurer to get the list?
Copy to treasurer and auditor.
Should we put a specific time frame on that list?
Well, it's in relation to the salary study.
Or should we say like 10 business days or?
Yeah,
No,
motion be have it in 10 business days.
Well, I don't. I was going to say, because the ordinance isn't going to meet till July 17th.
Yeah, but we can get the list.
Well, I don't know if you want to. I'll put the timeline on. I mean, I just want to
Before-
make sure they get it right. That's I don't want to.
Or the 17th.
I mean, it's the end of the fiscal year, and
I just think things with time frames somewhat go faster sometimes.
no, it does. But how about the end of like July? I mean, it's the end
No,
of
it's
the
fine
fiscal
with
year.
me, but
yeah.
let's give a specific time.
Received by the end of July.
July. Yeah, because we should.
We're
probably,
meeting on the 17th.
no, but you might not take it up July 17th.
Yeah, true.
So
End of
all
July.
those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. 32. That the supervisor union please provide a list of all employees in the union, how long they've been part of the union for. So ordinance as well.
Ordinance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 33. The Crocker Communication phone system addressed the phone issues with Verizon constituent users. Refer to
Public service.
Public Service. All those in
no.
favor? All opposed?
Aye.
No.
34, from Councilor McGivern, that Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, Preparedness Grant. Finance?
Finance.
I have no request to do it tonight, so finance is fine with me.
34 to Finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 35, this is the Holyoke Tourism Plan Grant. Finance?
Finance.
Finance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. President, can we take 36, 39, 40, and 41 as a package, please?
Second.
And send them out to ordinance?
36, 39, 40,
Second.
41, receive, suspend the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To ordinance, please?
Second.
And refer to ordinance, you said?
Second.
Yeah, and I think 36 also gives a copy to Sandy Sheehan at PVTA.
And a copy to Sandy Sheen at PVTA. So 36 is the city discontinued PVA bus stop at that location. 36, Councilor Anderson-Burgos regarding the salary study.
39.
30, that's 39. 40 is a new position established for Chief of Staff in the Mayor's office. 41 is that the position for Mayor Hoyt, Chief of Staff, be added to a new PR schedule. So all to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So 37, request that the curve sign be placed on Westfield Road near number 292.
Receive, adopt, and refer to DPW.
Receive, adopt, refer to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 38 from Councilor Bacon, that the City Council give a proclamation to Katie Siddell, owner of the Hair Changes for 40 years. When do you want this for?
I'll coordinate with Ryan
Okay.
because there's others in the queue.
All right, so a motion is for a proclamation.
Maybe in the fall.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And congratulations to her.
Yep. Mr. President, 42, that would definitely abbreviate a reading, please.
42 from Councilor Bartley, that the Holyoke City Council extend an order approved by the City Council August 2nd, 2016, which authorized the transfer of properties to the Holyoke Redevelopment Authority.
DGR.
The DGNR?
Second.
Please. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 43 from
Mr.
Councilor
President,
Bartley.
can we take 43, 44, 45, suspend the rules, take them as a package?
Second.
And then, yeah, I guess that's the first one.
43, 44, and 45?
Right.
And we're referring them to?
Yeah, I'm going to make a quick comment, but I just want to vote on the suspension of the
Take them as
package.
a package.
All right, so
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
And
opposed?
then motion to receive, adopt, refer, receive and refer to the DPW department. Refer to ordinance with a copy to DPW.
Motion is
Second.
referred to ordinance with a copy to DPW. 43 is to DPW Superintendent Engineer, making the top of South Street, including ensure traffic lights are they're not running regularly. 44 to the DPW and engineer, look at the making of bottom of South Street, once again an issue. And then 45, DPW engineering top of Route 5 motorists. So,
Carlton Street, yeah.
Box. So
Yeah,
all
that-
these are to ordinance.
Yeah, all to ordinance with a copy to DPW and the superintendent and the engineer, please.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank you.
opposed? 46, that the city of Holyoke should consider open checkbook software.
Yeah, so if we could receive and refer to the Finance Committee with a copy to the mayor, please.
Receive, refer to
Second.
finance, copy to the mayor. Under discussion, or?
It's a constituent request. It pretty well reads the way it is. I will say this, I did have a conversation with Rory online, and they're looking into it, but I think I say here, I want to just get an understanding of what it costs, and then what the costs and benefits are to the city for doing this.
Okay. So to finance with a copy to the mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 47 from Councilor Leahy.
Yes,
that we give the proclamation to Dan Rudy Lagaza.
Yeah.
Is that we saying that?
Lagaza.
For coaching Holyoke Catholic track for 52 years.
Yep, make a motion to approve.
Motion is to
Second.
receive and adopt. All those in favor?
Mr. President.
Mrs. Allen,
Yep.
yes, you could do that. All right, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, you want to add my name to that, please?
Could you add my
Mrs.
name
Ryan.
too as a
Adding
member?
Councilor Tallman, Bartley.
McGivern, class of
McGivern.
73. I never ran track, Joe. I played baseball. I just couldn't make the track team, but he was quite a coach back in the 70s.
I dashed the 440 for Mr. Lagaza.
Did you?
I was leading going around the first curve and down the back stretch. They caught me on the second curve, and I finished last at the finish line and proceeded to go up behind the stands.
Sounds
But
like
then
a
I
horse.
just stuck to the shot put and the javelin, Mike.
Sounds like a losing horse at the Tri-County Fair.
Coach Lagaza put me out of my misery after the race. He said, stick to the shot put and javelin.
There you go.
Item 48 from Leahy, Bresnahan, McGee, that we bring the Health Department, Fire Department, and Building Department into the Ordinance Committee to address boarding houses in Holyoke and create an ordinance against it.
Yeah, thank you. It's the constituent request. One of my fears is you have no idea if your neighbors are doing this. You have no idea if they're renting to a level 3 sex offender. You have no idea who these long-term rentals are going to. So let's hash this out in ordinance.
Ordinance. So motion is to receive and refer to ordinance. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Any late files? You have late files. Late file A. Regular meeting of the City Council. So these are the minutes of the meeting. I do believe we got an email as to why they came in this way, and that was one reason of addressing the 75,000 and 79,000 transfers. Motion is to receive.
So moved.
Oh, actually,
Second.
because it's a late file, we still can receive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So receive it.
That's all we can do,
All those in
right?
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? B.
Do we have to lay them on the table?
No.
No?
Just receive and refer to committee. That was a receive.
Okay.
B is from Councilor Bresnahan, McGee, Nelson, Josie, Valentin, Councilor Valentin.
It's your order.
Oh, okay, that's what I was. I got it. I was reading it wrong. So this is from the treasurer giving us the top 100 delinquent taxpayers coming in as a late file. I was just wondering why.
So-
It's not like we filed this before.
So a motion to receive then?
Yeah, we filed it back in June. So
Right, I remember you said that, yeah.
motion is
Make a motion to put on the next agenda.
motion is put on the next agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is it. Motion is to adjourn. All those in
Second.
favor? All those opposed? So be it.